Like it's where the lighting starts. It nobody does.
Call the meeting to order. This is the October 28, 2014 meeting of the Town Planning and Zoning Commission of the Town of Fairfield. The first item on our agenda is the meeting minutes from October 7 and October 14. It's on the agenda as one item. Everybody will treat it as one item. Does everybody have copies of the minutes from October 7 and 14 as they've been revised?
The last set that went out.
The last set that went out.
Yeah, one went out today, right?
We're all set on the minutes?
Yes, yeah.
Yes, okay, and Mark, you're on for John.
Okay.
Okay. All right, we have copies, can I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Alessi,
I'll second.
second by Commissioner Barris. Any other changes, questions on the minutes? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? The minutes from October 7 and October 14th are adopted unanimously. Next item on the agenda, new applications for recommendation to public hearing. First is 1964 Post Road, special permit application of J&K Kim LLC for an addition to an existing building in a design commercial district.
Mr. Chairman, this is an existing dry cleaner at 1964 Post Road. They're doing a small addition to the rear. It is a special permit, does require a public hearing.
Any questions, or can I have a motion? Motion to move to public hearing by Commissioner Kennelly.
I'll second it.
Second by Commissioner Calabrese. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Move to public hearing unanimously. Next item is 300 Quincy Street, subdivision application of Alfonso Camarada Jr. for 2 lots in an A zone.
This is what the item calls for. Quincy Street is a street that runs parallel roughly to Fairfield Beach Road, 2 blocks to the north. This property is near Veterans Park. It technically does not require a public hearing as it's only 2 lots and it's not a re-subdivision. However, I can't remember the last time we've had a subdivision that has not had the benefit of a public hearing, so we've put it on for new application to hearing. But however, you should know that you have the discretion to review this without the benefit of a public hearing should you wish to do so.
Okay. I have a motion for discussion.
I'll move it to public hearing.
Motion to move to public hearing by Commissioner Barris.
I'll second.
And second by Commissioner Alessi. I support the motion. I think that we ought to conduct a public hearing and gain the benefit of the presentation in evaluating the subdivision. Anyone else have any comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Move to public hearing unanimously. Next item is 1295 Mill Hill Road, re-subdivision application of Matthew Leahy for 2 lots in the AA zone. I will recuse myself. It's adjacent to my property.
Jack, you'll be sitting in? Jack, you'll be sitting for
This
that.
is a 2-lot re-subdivision of property. As a re-subdivision, it does require a public hearing, so it will be set down for a subsequent meeting.
From what I understand, is an email that we received today. There's no timeline on this application, right?
No, I mean, we're not setting the date tonight of what the hearing was. We'll take care of that. There was a request to not have it before the December meeting, and we'll take care of that, but that's something that we'll deal with in-house. You don't have to make that decision. You're just accepting the application for setting it down for a subsequent hearing.
Okay, well, it doesn't mean a 65-day letter or anything like that. We're fine on that one.
No, yeah.
Okay.
We're fine.
All right, I have a motion. Move to public hearing.
I would public hearing.
Motion by Commissioner Jacobson, second by Commissioner Cochran. Any discussion? No? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Or unanimous? Move to public hearing.
We did the chairman.
Chairman Lee?
Tell Eddie I have to come back.
Please come back.
Next item on the agenda is old business, 3553 and 3571 Post Road and 886 Kings Highway West, application of Walgreen Eastern Co. to establish a design commercial district on land presently zoned DID and Residence B. Public hearings on 9/9, 9/23, 10/14, expires 12/18/14.
Mr. Chairman, I just would recommend, if you look at the call, there were a couple commission members that did not personally attend a few of the meetings, so if they could just confirm that, for the record, that they've made themselves aware of the record and were able to review it, the dates that they missed.
Sure. So let's just go down the line. Commissioner Kennelly,
I did.
Commissioner Peretz,
I was here at all the meetings.
as was I.
So was I.
Commissioner Jacobson,
I watched the one I missed on television.
very good. Commissioner Calabrese,
Same thing. I caught up on the one I missed.
up to speed, very good. And I believe on this is Commissioner Corcoran,
Yep.
right? Commissioner Corcoran, you're sitting in for Commissioner Nylund?
I did watch the one I missed on TV.
All right, so you're up to speed as well.
Yes.
So we have 7 then. We want to
Yep, I'll give you a quick overview.
give a
Thank you.
review, and also talk about the number of votes for,
Sure.
as I think we had
I'll give that,
as
yeah.
well.
Well, I can mention that right now. There was a protest petition that met the criteria for the number of votes, so to approve the zone change portion of this application would require 5 positive votes.
Okay. And that's what's up now is the zone change. Next item, we'll treat that
Right.
separately.
What I'm going to do is just give you a brief overview of what's proposed, and then I'll outline the findings you need to make on both
Both.
actions. Yep.
Okay. Do you want me to call the second item so that we're
Yeah,
reviewing?
sure.
All right, so
Yep.
the second item on old business is 3541 and 3571 Post Road and 886 Kings Highway West, which is the special permit and coastal site plan application of Walgreen Eastern Co. pertaining to the construction of a new retail building. And I think the commissioners that just confirmed that they were up to date on all the hearings are the same ones that would be on that second one as well. So is anyone not? All right, we're all up to speed. Okay?
Thank you. The applicant here proposes to construct a 9,096 square foot pharmacy with a drive-through facility and a 3,000 square foot basement storage area. Although the building will give an illusion or have the site plan shows a 2 stories, it will only be a single-story structure. The applicant also proposes to improve pedestrian safety and access in the area. Part of your site plan described sidewalks and crosswalks that were being proposed as part of the application. The applicant also proposes to change the zone, as the Chairman mentioned, of 3 of the 4 subject properties to design commercial in order to provide a consistent zoning designation for the entire property. While parcel 209 is currently designed commercial, parcel 214 is zoned design industrial, and parcels 210 and 209A are both designed industrial and residential B. The applicant also proposes the installation of underground detention system, a patent isolator for row, and pervious paving in order to contain flows to match existing conditions, promote groundwater recharge, and improve the water quality. Also, there's an excavation on the property. The required excavation would result in approximately 3,000 cubic yards of material, with 500 yards being utilized on the site. As far as the zone change review and findings, there are 6 of them. These findings are based on the statutes and your regulations, which outline your authority for approving or reviewing zone change applications. I'll list them for you with a brief overview of the discussions at the hearing. The first one is that the proposed zone change is consistent with the Plan of Conservation Development. The Plan of Conservation Development recommends rezoning of the DID land along the Post Road under the Design Commercial District. The plan also provides that encroachment of commercial zones in the residential areas should be discouraged. At the hearing, it was identified that there is no current residential use being displaced. There were 2 homes that existed that were vacant, that had been removed. Kings Highway West could provide a practical boundary for the design commercial zone described in the zoning map that was submitted. And mapping of the design designation will use the center line of the road. That is the standard that the town uses when they establish these zone districts. The second one, time, experience, and reasonable planning for contemporary or future conditions, indicates the need for the proposed zoning. The split, what was represented to the commission at the hearing is the split in the zones of the property at this location are arbitrary. The way they were established was basically based, in some instances, on an arbitrary distance from the post road. Remedying this split zoning would bring stability to any use that is made of the site, which was represented to the commission based on some overview on what ultimately would be proposed for the site if in fact these zones were approved. Circumstances in it, number 3, circumstances in the neighborhood have changed substantially enough to merit the requested zone changes. The recent zone change approval adjacent to the proposal combines split zoning and will establish a new commercial use adjacent. Number 4, the commission must determine that it has been demonstrated that the proposed zone change is warranted and would serve the general health, welfare, and safety of the town. Number 5, the commission must determine that the proposed zone change promotes a level of development that would serve to protect property values in the neighborhood and enhance the community. As the commission knows, the Fairfield Economic Development Commission submitted a letter in support of the zone change and construction of the proposed commercial development. They feel it is consistent with the policies contained in the Plan of Conservation Development, is compatible with uses established along the commercial corridor, and will yield new tax revenues, additional employment opportunities, and contribute positively to the community. That all was listed in their letter to the commission. The 6th finding that the commission must review is the proposed zone change would not permit a level of development that would increase undue traffic congestion. As was represented in the site plan that was submitted, the only access to this proposal would be from the post road. No driveway access will exist on the Kings Highway West. The proposed development includes sidewalks along both Post Road and Kings Highway West and improved pedestrian access from Holmes Highway and Post Road. As far as your review of the special permit under your section 25.7, the findings that are listed, number 1, the use must be permitted in the zone. Again, there are 2 actions. The sequence would be first you would act on the zone change, and then depending on whether or not how that was reviewed or acted upon, again, the special permit must be a permitted use in the zone. Number 2, all portions of the lot not used for buildings or for paved driveway, sidewalks, or off-street parking and loading areas shall be suitably landscaped. Areas required for the minimum setback from any residential district shall be provided with a buffer in such a manner as to screen the use from view to a height of 5 feet. The site plan specified a 6-foot fence along the western and southern property lines. Also, a landscaping plan had been included for the entire proposed site. A 25-foot setback line, building setback from the property line is proposed. A 20-foot setback from the residential B zone required by our section 12.7.6.4 is satisfied by this setback. All portions of the lot excluding the buildings, driveways, sidewalks, and off-street parking and loading areas are proposed to be landscaped as was represented in a landscaping plan that you had received and were reviewed at the public hearing. The specification for all driveways and off-street parking shall be subject to section 28 of the zoning regulations. The site plans that were submitted indicated consistency with these standards. Number 4, the development shall be of such character to harmonize with the neighborhood, to accomplish a transition in character between areas of unlike character, to protect property values, preserve and enhance the appearance and beauty of the community, and avoid undue traffic congestion. As described at the hearing, the site plan and architectural plans are consistent with our architectural standards found in section 12.10.4. The site plan would support the zone change intent to stabilize the use of the property and would be consistent with most recent approval and redevelopment in this area.
Mr. Chairman.
That, Mr. Chairman, is quickly what was presented and outlined for you at the public hearing.
Thank you. A motion, Commissioner Alessi?
Motion to approve?
A motion to approve by Commissioner Alessi,
I'll second it.
second by Commissioner Calabrese. Okay. Commissioner Alessi?
Yeah, I'm going to vote to approve the zone change as outlined by the staff report. There are no current residential uses being displaced. I think we do have a mixed mash here of zoning on this corner, and I think this application stabilizes that along Kings Highway and pretty much on the north side of the Post Road too. I would see the same thing, although here with this application that we'll be voting on next, we eliminate any and all driveways from dumping out on this, but that's for the next one. Anyway, I think remedying the split zoning would bring stability to the use made on this site, as outlined by staff. The recent zone change approved adjacent to this proposal combined the split zoning, and as we did in Garlic and Herbs, I think about a year and a half ago. As also stated, it's been demonstrated that the proposed zone change is warranted and would serve the general health, welfare, and safety of the town. It promotes a level of development, would serve to protect property values in the neighborhood and enhance the community. The Economic Development Commission voted unanimously for this zone change. We wouldn't see a level of increased traffic by changing this zone to a commercial zone as well. So, with the facts that have been laid out here by the staff and pretty much changing everything to make it one consistent parcel, I'm going to vote for the zone change on this application.
Commissioner Calabrese?
Yep, for all the same reasons that we reported in the staff report, really just to bring this zone some consistency, I'm going to support this zone change as well. I think it's a long time coming.
Commissioner Corcoran?
My largest concern in the hearings was the complaints about the present site of Walgreens in Westport, and I think they were addressed by the applicants in terms of an ongoing, providing an ongoing contact for complaints and maintaining the site with business hours for deliveries and garbage and so on.
Yeah. You raise a good point, and one of the things that I wanted to raise was the commitment that was made during the rebuttal to accept as a condition that the hours be limited to that which was stated, and that the garbage pickup and the deliveries would only be during business hours, and that a contact be maintained at TPZ for the purpose of complaints and remedying any issues that might come up. That wasn't a part of the staff review, but I mean, I am recalling that from the hearing. I think
Presented at the hearing.
I correctly.
I think we need to clarify what business hours are for this business.
So it was reported at the hearing that it was Monday to Friday 9 to 9 and Saturday and Sunday from 9 to 6 for the pharmacy, and I believe that the general hours were 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. I believe that the commitment for deliveries and such were the pharmacy hours. That's what my notes reflect.
Again, those issues you would take up, and if you felt necessary, you would make a condition of approval of any site plan action.
That's conditional.
Yeah, as a condition of approval. So are you recommending a modification to the motion for those conditions?
Well, no, this motion right now is just on the zone change. You'll make another motion for the site plan.
I see. I got it. So that would not be related to this, to the first one. That would be for the next motion. Gotcha. Okay. All right. Commissioner Jacobson?
I had a lot of concerns about this one, but with the conditions and understanding it will stabilize the neighborhood, I'll support the zone change.
Commissioner Barris?
Yeah, I don't believe the change to residential B, from residential B to DCD should not be approved. To me, it's not even a close call. I hear it's unfair to the neighbors on King Highway West to change the zone along that street. We talk about Garlic and Herbs. I was here for that application, most of you were. It's commercial on the Post Road, it's residential along Kings Highway West. There's houses there, people live there. To change a commercial zone onto a residential street is wrong. Talk about the master plan, it's an advisory document. It's recommendation, it's not like regulations. But preventing encroachment of commercial development into residential zones has been the position of this commission for the past 11 years that I've served. Many of you have been on the commission a long time too. It's been your position also. We resist encroachment of commercial development into residential zones. All of you have done the same previously. When they talk about some of the zones and the mishmash, there's a story behind that. There's a history behind that. It's not like, oh, let's modify it. I mean, the current industrial zone here is Fetzer Tire. That stays industrial for a reason. It's a permitted use in that property. Notice behind it is residential. Garlic and Herbs, behind it is residential. This proposes to take commercial development onto a street that's residential. And I don't think that's fair, and I don't think we should do it. If we had another application and somebody wanted to assemble some of these properties along the Post Road and rezone to commercial, I'd certainly consider that. But for right now, I would suggest leaving the zones as they are until we have an application that does not impact the residents in this way. That's the short answer from my position.
Commissioner Kennelly?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I also agree with Commissioner Barrett. I'm opposed to this application as presented. The first test here is, for a zone change, is it consistent with the plan of conservation and development? And I think really the crux, when we get right down to it, is really item 4 under policies for Southport, and this issue of encroachment of commercial zones into residential areas should be discouraged. Now, why discourage encroachment? Well, first off, what is encroachment? Well, Webster says that it is to gradually move or go into an area, beyond desired limits, okay? It's a gradual process. Now, the neighbors in this community, the people who lived on Kings Highway West, they were under the impression, when they moved to that residential neighborhood, that there were 2 homes, and that behind them was essentially what it was described in the testimony as what amounted to the extension of the backyards. In fact, the record we have says that that as far as back to 1962, there was nothing on the industrial properties, and anyone looking at this from 1962 to 2010 would have believed that was the case. So what was the plan of conservation and development trying to do here, and why is it so crucial for us, before we just settle into our yes or no votes, to think about this? And I urge my colleagues to think about this even now. Well, the idea behind the discouragement of encroachment is just that what was a process here? An LLC was formed in 2008, homes were knocked down in 2010, and now in 2014, what has happened? Step by step by step, the neighbors find very late in the process that what's being asked is a dramatic change in what they expect in their residential neighborhood. When one is a residential property owner, they have different responsibilities. And surely here, we as commissioners have an obligation to look to those folks who don't necessarily look at, daily how things are done in Fairfield, and how they just basically want some kind of protection to ensure that the community they're used to and expect to have is going to be protected. I supported Garlic and Herb. I supported Wheels further down on the Post Road. Both of those applications. In case of Garlic and Herb, it made complete sense to make a conversion. Only 4,900 square feet. I was there today at the property for the second time, and I see how that's coming along, and there's residences right behind Garlic and Herb at 4,900 square feet. This property at over 9,000, it necessitated the removal of the residential property. But as I said, I voted for Garlic and Herb. I voted for Wheels because in Wheels' case, even the residential was even closer, but it was a non-conforming use. There was no legal basis, and frankly, no expectation. No one on this commission could offer those who were concerned about it, the expectation under law that they would be protected, and so I supported wheels. Finally, let me say that I have many times, when there has been an angry crowd, voted the other way, back to my first days on this commission, and from things like the Hoydens Hill softball field, the changes in regulations in 2007. So this isn't to appease anyone, it's that I'm concerned honestly about what we do here as a commission, and I urge you to reconsider carefully what you're going to do in terms of voting, because this encroachment, this process, is, to me at least, troubling. It does make folks worry. You know, one of the people who came to one of the women who came before us to speak, I think she used the term, or used a quote that was, you know, the capricious application of the law destroys confidence in the law. And I think that is a concern. And why capricious? Well, Commissioner Barrett's touched on this. When we rejected Spruce Street just recently, in terms of making a change from residential to commercial, I will tell you that Commissioner Coleman, I didn't vote, but I was here, and Commissioner Coleman made a superb argument, basically saying, hey, the only person who showed up at our hearing was a neighbor, and they said, please, get the cars off the street, make this commercial, and let them have a parking lot. But even then, what did we do? What did this commission, only less than a month ago, do? It said, sorry, even though we have this fairly coherent reason for doing this, we have this orphaned residential property, the PCOD says that we don't turn property back, we don't turn property from residential to commercial. Look at, then at John Street. At John Street, again, we had a building that was in terrible condition, that was completely reconstructed. It was reconstructed not at the level of just the strength of a house, but the strength of a commercial building. But again, we just, as recently as less than a month ago, we rejected this. And we rejected it, and one commissioner even pointed out in his remarks that he was a little bit taken aback by the fact that all this construction was done, and then someone came and said, now I'd like my residential converted or changed to a commercial, if you recall. But yet we rejected that, and rejected it unanimously. In this situation, it seems to me that almost the same thing is happening. A LLC gets created, houses get knocked down, trees get cut down, and now there really isn't a choice. If in 2008 we'd had a good discussion between the neighbors who lived there and the owners of the property, talking about, hey, how do we do this right? What's fair? What can work so that the people who've invested in this property make a decent profit, and at the same time the residential character is as protected as possible? I think that would have been a great way to go. Look what happened with Sasko Hill and the Post Road, where we got a building we wanted. We voted no on the first application. The applicants went back and worked with the community and came back with something terrific. So, you know, I would urge you to think about this. Look, there's some good stuff, things like a sidewalk, yes, but keep in mind, ultimately, what you're asking folks to do here, especially the ones right across the street from things like the drive-through, is to have a very different quality of life than they had before, okay? And when you do that, when you have people now across the street from that, it's not the best thing. And we do hope that all these conditions are met. But I will tell you, when I was on Kings Highway West today, and I was on the commission at the time we approved the Dowwood Center, which is the old Friendlies being converted into a soccer building and other stuff. And there was a long discussion about what were the conditions we were going to have for the entrance onto Post Road, into Kings Highway West. And we said, okay, it's got to be grass pavers, and there's got to be big signs that no one can go through here. Well, I'm going to tell you, I was walking around to kind of look at the mix again and try to figure out what was the right choice here. And I almost got run over by an SUV that shot through, and the grass pavers are long gone. The grass pavers are a rubbery mess. They look like a dirtier version of the exit there onto Kings Highway West. This woman who almost ran me over made a right and headed off to Westport. So I don't think we can comfort ourselves that these kind of conditions are met. So let me just, so for those reasons, just the core issue being the encroachment issue, that if we say yes to this, we're inviting the possibility of this kind of thing to possibly happen again, which I don't think is a great process. And I want to say that process, I don't think was nefarious. I think it was a smart, intelligent person trying to do what she thought was best. And I would say that probably one of the best things that could have happened would be if everybody just kind of taken the rhetoric down and realized that you know, we're in the town together, and that, you know, I had the honor of working with the applicant, the primary applicant here, and this is a woman who's given years of her life to the town and really is dedicated and just wanted to do what she thought was best with her property. I don't think it was anything remotely nefarious. She moved ahead in the process that was laid out. this commission ultimately has to make a choice. So I would ask you to think long and hard before you're actually called on the roll, and think this over. Do you really want to endorse ultimately a process that is going to negatively impact the neighborhood, a neighborhood with bikes right on the lawn today, with targets for lacrosse, and one kid has an enclosure for looks like for throwing or hitting baseballs. This is a neighborhood with kids. Do we really want to take away that residential component, or can't we come back and, working with the community, develop an attractive, smaller commercial side to this property along the post road, maintain something in terms of residential, and let's be willing, just like we have been when we made interesting choices, unusual choices, like for example, in the case of 85 Pond Mill, which has become the Sportsplex, where we rejected office and residential because of our concerns about traffic. And Sportsplex has grown and become an incredibly valuable, contributing commercial entity in town. We just have to be willing to think creatively, stay calm, understand that if we say no, it is not the end of the process, it's just the beginning. And so I urge you to do so.
Okay, thanks.
Your turn.
Yeah, my turn. So this was difficult. I'll acknowledge that. I disagree, Commissioner Kennelly, that the decision is capricious in any stretch. It is most deliberate. It's discretionary. We are charged with evaluating these applications to decide what we believe is in the best interests of our town. And one of the things that Attorney Nuff argued, with which I agree, is that we need to take into account what's best for the town as a whole in our evaluation. I really do believe that. These applications stand on their own. We evaluate them separately and independently. I disagree that our decision on this application should be held to influence or impact our decision on any other application for a zone change, other than the criteria on which we are required to evaluate and base our decision. We have voted against what I do see as encroachment in, for example, John Street. You mentioned that about and I am the commissioner that you referred to that took exception to the applicant building the building and then coming in for approval. I mean, there were more nuances there, but I was the commissioner that you're referring to. That didn't happen here. This parcel is undeveloped. And we've resisted it in other areas as well. We had the application for the medical facility up across from the Hi-Ho, which was asking for a zone change as well, which we collectively, I think unanimously, denied. And one of the big things that I heard was from the neighbors was that they didn't want any outflow onto Kings Highway West. They wanted to ensure that there was no additional traffic being dumped out onto Kings Highway West. What I think everyone's losing sight of here is that parcel 209 is itself commercial, and that the current proposal would eliminate the possibility that 209 would be developed with additional commercial outlet onto Kings Highway West. I mean, even if we denied this, and as you suggest, the applicant goes back and develops something differently, 209 could be developed with ingress and egress solely on Kings Highway West. They could have an entrance on the post road and an exit onto Kings Highway West. Frankly, they could probably make those one way if they wanted to, so that cars could only enter on Post Road and only exit onto Kings Highway West. The current proposal would eliminate that. Gerlich and Herbs was a conversion of residential to design commercial. There was an element of Gerlich and Herbs, the Gerlich and Herbs application, that was a conversion. It was a partial zone change. I understand that it was small, but it was part of the application, okay? And, you know, I went back actually and I reviewed that record as well in trying to look at this because I wanted to understand those issues even better in the neighborhood and see how this was lining up. This parcel is somewhat unique, this area. There is a signalized intersection at Hulls Highway, which we can take advantage of as a community. The sidewalks and the pedestrian flow and the traffic flow can be regulated in a way which would be a benefit for the town and also serve this neighborhood and this community. You know, we've heard much about the opposition that testified, or the neighbors who testified in opposition to this application, but we also heard testimony from neighbors in support of this application. There was, yes, we did, and yeah, we did. Yeah, the level of development that was seen here previously was not of a caliber that this town, I think, wanted to call its own. And the proposal here is to unify and stabilize these parcels to a good place. I disagree that we're opening any doors. As I said, I think that these applications all rise and fall on their own merit. It's important to understand that there are commercial zones that line this street that are on Kings Highway presently. While, you know, this is a difficult decision, I do agree with our Office of Economic Development, who is charged with making an evaluation of what is in the best interests of our town. And I do support the application. So those are my 2 cents. And I do agree with the various findings that were reviewed by staff in the comments of some of my other commissioners here. It wasn't an easy process at all. Commissioner Barron.
Yeah, just, don't want to belabor the history, but the Dowd property that people don't even remember, Jim and I, Commissioner Shelley and I were in, that was industrial too. That wasn't residential. And going back, I'm not sure I would have approved it the way it was with that entrance in Kings Highway. There was a lot of discussion about that. The fire department insisted that they have an entrance. We didn't want any egress into that structure. You remember that, right?
And just one of the things, Mr. Chairman, thank you for your indulgence. I would just say that the John Street application also had the endorsement of the Economic Development Commission.
And just to leave you with one quote, I just want to quote a very wise person. This is a quote, I think I could read it verbatim. "I'm just very worried about commercial development encroaching on residential land. I think it sends a bad message and sets a precedent." That was said by Commissioner Jacobson 3 weeks ago tonight about a zone change in Southport. I ask, those of you considering this application to consider it. Normally, a lot of our votes is we build a consensus. Most of our votes are easy. They're unanimous. It's clear what to do. Here it's not. So I'd ask you to all think about your vote tonight. It can make a difference.
I'd also like to say that when she made that comment, John Street was in a very deep residential neighborhood, and this is the post road. We're talking about the 2 different things.
Please. Don't do that. Please.
And so I would disagree with Commissioner Alessi. John Street has almost all commercial properties. And it was a residential bordering it on Spruce Street, but John Street is almost all commercial. I was closer to voting for that than this one.
And ultimately, just again, when we ask you to consider the possibility of changing to no, we're not asking you to say no, that we don't want to see the parcel developed. We're not talking about going back to 2010. That isn't possible. All we're asking you to do is consider the possibility that we simply kind of slow the process here. Now, the one thing that seems to be driving this train is, oh my gosh, we're going to get a Walgreens. And all I'm saying is I do appreciate that that sounds like a terrific tenant to have for the applicant. But I'm more concerned about what happens in this area. And I would ask you, as you think over actually how you will vote, that you consider that. You know, this neighborhood along Kings Highway West is primarily residential, and John Street the opposite. And we opposed as we said before, we opposed unanimously the conversion of residential to commercial at John Street.
Anyone? No. As I said before, I actually articulated my reasons for John Street, fairly well, I think. This is different. To me, this is different. Anyone else? Are we ready to vote? Okay. So this is, item 2A on old business, and this is the zone change application. This is not the coastal site plan application. The motion on the table is to approve. It's been seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay, Kennelly and Barretts. Any abstentions? The item passes 5-2. Next item on the agenda is 3541, 3571 Post Road, 886 Kings Highway West, special permit and coastal site plan application of Walgreen Eastern Co. pertaining to a construction of a new retail building.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I did go over already the finding requirements. I'll do it again real briefly for you. Just a second. Based on our section, along with, again, being consistent with the zoning regulations as far as the design standards, there are also findings that you need to make based on section 25.7, and I listed them before. I'll do it again. Number one, the use is permitted in the zone is a requirement. All portions of the lot not used for building or for paved driveways, sidewalk, off-street parking and loading shall be landscaped. Again, you received site plans that indicated that. Specifications for all driveways and off-street parking shall be subject to section 28 of the zoning regulations. Again, the site plans indicate consistency with these standards. And the last thing is the development shall not be of such character to harmonize the neighborhood and everything else. And again, that all pretty much was addressed in the last comments, but the site plan and architectural plans seem to be consistent with not only the zoning requirement, design requirements, but also, bless you, also the architectural standards found in section 12.10.4. With that mentioned also, I just go back to what was mentioned before as far as a possible condition of approval. What was represented to the commission is that there would be a limitation of deliveries and pickups consistent with traffic activity in Post Road. Deliveries would be between, bless you, 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. and no pickups would be before 7 a.m.
Sorry, can you repeat those, Alan?
Deliveries would be between the hours of 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. and no pickups before 7 a.m. That, Mr. Chairman?
You have notes on when you say pickups, you're referring to deliveries and or garbage pickup?
Both.
Both.
Yep.
That's what I was saying. During pharmacy hours, right?
Yeah. So, thank you. You want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve with the conditions. Would you like the condition listed?
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and list your conditions, because it
I'm
was
sure they're
also
going to be
not...
added up into them. So all pickup and deliveries will be made, including sanitation, during the pharmacy hours, that only during open pharmacy hours. The Walgreens contact phone number, cell phone number, and email address must be kept on record at Town Hall at all times. If we have any future discrepancies, applicant or owner is to maintain any and all landscaping. This includes all shrubbery along Kings Highway, as well as the entire property.
Okay, motion's been made. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Commissioner Corcoran. Discussion? Commissioner Alessi?
No, I'm just happy that the building is as small as it is. I'm happy that there's no driveway on Kings Highway. And I think with these conditions, it'll be contained a lot better than people think it will be. So I'm along for it with these approvals, with these conditions of approval.
Anyone else? Commissioner Kennelly?
In this case with the special permit, are the conditions for 25.7 in place that they must meet them, or no? Is that different?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
For the issuing of special, or the approval of special permit, are the conditions, do conditions have to be met under 25.7?
Yeah.
Okay. In that case, I will oppose this based on the fact that under 25.7.7, I don't believe that while there has been a zone change, that this granting a special permit will allow the property to be in harmony with the surrounding neighborhood. Right against this is a residential neighborhood, and my view is that before we grant a special permit, it ought to be something that is in harmony, and this is, by all the evidence produced, is not in harmony with the surrounding neighborhood, which is overwhelmingly residential.
Anyone else? So I think it will be, will harmonize with the commercial area, which is immediately adjacent, and the signalized intersection on the post road, and given the level of attention that's been paid to the Kings Highway West portion, it is significant to me that the applicant maintain a current contact person at TPZ, and this is conditioned, the approval here is conditioned upon maintenance of that contact person. If that fails to continue, or if situations are not addressed, this approval will be revoked. So,
Will be enforced.
it's subject to enforcement, okay?
Just one thing.
Sure.
If we have just down the street at Kings Highway West at the Dowd Center property, which was cited as an example of this mix of commercial and residential being appropriate for Kings Highway West, and we can't even get grass pavers to be maintained, I just do wonder how these other issues where will be success. No, please do not do that. No, this is, look, if a town, please, if a town this successful can't debate these kind of things calmly without turning it into a slugfest, let's just try to, but I would just say to you that should be a concern for this commission, because if you're comforted by the idea of conditions, keep in mind if you've walked this street, the simplest condition at the Dowd Center has not been maintained for a long time, and that's a simple physical condition.
So-
Grass pavers, not remotely, and also supposedly prominent signs to warn people not to use the exit and entryway. That hasn't been maintained.
All right. So I'll respond briefly to that, and then I know Commissioner Alessi has something to add to that as well. You know, I was not aware of the grass pavers issue. Certainly something that I think needs to and will be looked into. I would raise the Athena Diner and the sign that went up at the Athena Diner. And when we enforced our regulations, we achieved success. In other aspects where enforcement has become an issue, that we have done what's necessary. So, Commissioner Alessi?
No, I was just going to say the Athena Dine is a perfect example, and the emails that I received during the week that staff is well aware of regarding complaints and signs or lights or whatever it is, it's addressed through town
Yeah.
when it's made to our attention, and they send somebody out and take care of it.
And another one I'll mention is the patio seating that I forget it, maybe it was the greenhouse or was it the, I don't remember the name of the establishment, but where a complaint was made that they were in violation. No, it was
Chelsea,
not Chelsea. It was down further on the post road next to Finn.
Malto.
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 We revoked their permit and they came into compliance. There was another issue. I mean, the list goes on. So, you know, the applicant here has acknowledged that they're taking steps to ensure compliance, and we have as a condition, even further than that, they maintain a current contact to remedy situations that hopefully will never occur, but if they do, will be remedied.
I just want to say for the record, Mr. Chairman, that your efforts as chairman and the vice chairman's efforts to aggressively look at things as small as, say, neon signs and windows is unchallenged by me. I absolutely think this commission has its stewardship and its concern is a great one. That's not really what I was trying to express here. What I'm saying to my fellow commissioners as they decide yes or no on granting a special permit here, one of the issues you have to consider if this harmonizes with this neighborhood is there evidence that other conditions on other properties haven't really been followed up, and that has nothing to do with the outstanding work that the chairman and the vice chairman have done on these matters. It's got to do with us considering, is this indeed something that long-term will be harmonizing? And we have to ask ourselves, where's the evidence? Well, I don't know about the Athena Diner. I mean, I know about it, but I mean, in terms of what this is, I do know just within a walk, because I was there today, that what's supposed to be clearly, I was almost run over in a place that's supposed to be only an emergency exit. So, something to consider.
That's a great point, but did you email staff and tell them of this and say, listen, we're supposed to have these here?
I actually came here today at 3:30 because I knew Joe and Jim were here setting up the meeting and actually mentioned it to him. But my point, though, is not the discrete violation. It's the idea that as any of us consider now whether to grant the special permit tonight, we have to ask ourselves under 25(7.7) whether or not harmony can be maintained with the neighborhood when we already have evidence that, in fact, it hasn't been the case in a property just down the way.
Thank you. Anyone else? No? Okay, are we ready to vote? All right, motion is to approve with conditions as stated and then seconded. All right, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nope.
Opposed by Commissioner Kennelly and Barretts. The item passes 5-2. Next item on our agenda is 785 Umpqua Road, special exception application of the town of Fairfield for additions and alterations to Fairfield Ludlow High School in an A zone. Public hearing 10/14/2014.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I'll give you a brief overview of what was presented to the commission. The town of Fairfield makes this application as part of plans for alterations and additions to the Fairfield Ludlow High School. The property is located in residential A zone. The Board of Education approved this education specification plan on February 26, 2013. The additions and alterations proposed for the Fairfield Ludlow High School are recommendations of that plan. The project consists of two additions, one expanding the instructional area and the other expanding the cafeteria dining area. The academic area expansion proposes the addition of 4 general use classrooms and 2 science lab prep rooms totaling 8,900 square feet. The cafeteria expansion proposes an additional 3,500 square feet. The total addition is approximately 12,400 square feet. The proposed calls for an extension of the Webster Academic Wing located in the northwest corner of the existing structure with a three-story addition. The proposed addition will contain 4 general-use classrooms and 2 science classrooms, labs, with prep room each. In total, the area of this addition is approximately 8,900 square feet. Access to the school will remain as currently designed, with front driveway loop remaining in the current position and design. Several handicap spaces will be displaced and relocated slightly downhill from their current location. On June 5th, 2014, the Zoning Board of Appeals unanimously approved the variance of section 5.2.2 to allow the height of the addition to be consistent with the existing building at 33.85 feet and to allow the 3 stories as currently exist. At the rear of the school, the other addition I talked to you about is that 1-story cafeteria expansion of approximately 3,500 square feet. This cafeteria expansion has been designed in a way that preserves the existing driveway and access parking area in that rear of the school. Again, also as represented at the hearing, as part of the proposal, an existing 4th food service line will be made operational and available to the students and faculty. A new walk-in cooler, freezer, dry food storage, and chair storage rooms will be formed within the existing building footprint. The school, as you know, school uses are permitted in this zone subject to receiving approval under Section 27 of the zoning regulations. The commission must find that the additions are consistent and relevant zoning design requirements, which was represented to the commission as part of their site plan, and are per Section 27.4 conditions of approval. Those are, and they will sound very familiar to what you've heard already, the location, type, character, and size of the building shall be in harmony with and conform to the appropriate and orderly development of the town and this property. No hinder and will not hinder or discourage appropriate development and use of adjacent property or impair its value. Provisions have been made for entering and leaving the property without creating undue traffic hazard or congestion and inadequate off-street parking. Again, those issues were outlined in the Board of Education's and their applicants' presentation to the commission.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion approved by Commissioner Kennelly.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Corcoran? No, sorry.
I don't think I voted on this.
Oh,
Right, I'm sorry. It would be
Jackie recused
Commissioner Coleman.
Commissioner Coleman
She's recused.
recused herself. So, Commissioner Francis? Right.
Give it a bullpen.
All
It's
right.
like being the drummer on Spinal Tap.
Commissioner Francis is
Getting that
on.
reference, I appreciate it.
Okay. All
I
right,
did.
good.
If they
Thanks-
explode,
thanks, Mark.
it literally would explode in them.
So we have a motion to approve by Commissioner Kennelly,
I'll second.
second by Commissioner Alessi.
Mr. Chairman, I would say that, as was described to us in the public hearing, this is a needed public facility, expansion of a public facility. It is one that it appears at least can be done in a manner that is going to ensure the safety of students. I do know that, there were some excellent questions raised by the Vice Chairman regarding, the ed spec. Did we have enough? Were we getting enough here? But the bottom line is that this is it. This is what ultimately the BOE and the administration felt was appropriate. So I urge my colleagues to support this.
Thank you.
I have nothing further to add, everything he said.
Okay.
Pointed out perfectly.
Very good. Anyone else? No? Yeah, this is a good application. There were certain questions raised about phasing and how the building was going to be protected, and there was one question about the balcony on that second story, right? That I think the applicant said it was not going to be built, right?
Removed.
It was removed, right? Was that removed on the site plans, or
Well,
just the
The
rendering?
rendering was done prior, they discussed it, and I think they indicated at the hearing that they removed that element from the plan, even
From the
though it was
plan.
on the rendering.
Okay, so the plan, I didn't go back and check
Well,
the,
what we'll
the
be
plan for that.
receiving, if you approve this application, is a revised plan. Also, a building plan will be submitted and approved that will not show, will have that balcony eliminated.
Removed. Right. Okay. All right. Well, otherwise, yeah, I agree, Commissioner Kennelly. It's a, it may not be everything that we need, but there's a lot that we don't have that we want. This is a long process, goes through appropriations, goes through planning, gets approved by RTM, gets approved in the budget, gets approved by the Board of Education, and we're the last stop. And so, I think it's important that we all support this and approve this. Anyone else? All right, ready to vote? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? The item passes unanimously. Next item is 1150 Post Road, special permit application of Vincenti Buren Architects on behalf of David Ives, proposing a garage addition to an existing building in the Center Design Business District. Public hearing October 14, 2014, expires December 18, 2014.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I'll give you a quick overview. The applicant proposes a 744 square feet addition for a two-car garage with a deck above attached to the existing building. The building houses a commercial use that is permitted in this commercial zone. The addition is consistent with all pertinent zoning design requirements, and action is subject to this, again, section 25.7 requirements for the approval, and that the proposed addition shall be permitted in a district, and that the addition shall harmonize with the neighborhood, protect property values, preserve the enhanced appearance, and avoid any undue traffic congestion. That essentially was what was presented at the hearing.
A motion to approve, Mr. Chairman?
Motion to approve by Commissioner Kennelly. Second by Commissioner Jacobson. Kennelly?
In our public hearing, it was evident that that this was going to be used for the owner to park his car, and that above it was going to be a space for employees to eat. And I didn't say anything. I don't think anyone here who was in that public hearing saw anything of significant objection.
Commissioner Jacobson?
I agree. I think it's a needed addition, and I'll support it.
Agree. Is Commissioner Francis is now still on, or we didn't? Yes, Commissioner Francis is still on. Very good.
No, Jackie just left the school because she just recused herself from the school.
Commissioner Coleman recused herself from the school app. She was on otherwise. Would she be on this then?
Yes.
So it
I'm
is, sorry. So Commissioner Coleman is sitting in for Commissioner Neely now. Sorry.
Could you just, for the recording secretary, confirm the motion then seconded?
Sure. Yep. Motion made by Commissioner Kennelly, seconded by Commissioner Jacobson.
Thank you.
So, yeah, I agree with Commissioner Kennelly. There was nothing to really object to here. It otherwise complies, and seems to be a good application. So I'll be supporting it. Anybody else have any comments? No? Ready to vote? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstention? The item carries unanimously. Next item is 1593 Post Road, special permit application of the French Family Realty Trust LLC pertaining to the construction of a second-story addition in the Center Design District. Public hearing October 14, 2014.
Yes, sir. Again, presented at the hearing, the owners of this property at 1591, 1593 Post Road make this application for special permit approval in order to allow the construction of a 1,839 square foot second-story addition. The new addition will also provide a location for solar PV panels on the roof, providing a source of electrical service for the building. Property is located in a Center Design Business District. On June 5th, 2014, the Zoning Board of Appeals, after public hearing, unanimously granted a variance of section 12.7.6.2 to reduce the minimum side property line setback from one side property line to accommodate the proposed second floor. The existing building is non-conforming to the minimum setback for the side yard line, and that was necessary request to make the addition consistent with the current building. Other than the setback variance granted by the ZBA, the proposed second-story addition will comply with all other technical requirements of the regulations. These would include, of course, coverage, other setbacks, heights, and also the parking requirement for this. The existing 9 parking spaces satisfies the requirement for parking of the proposed retail square footage. The access to the second floor addition is from the rear of the building, adjacent to the parking area. Again, this application is subject not only to the pertinent zoning design requirements, which I just briefly mentioned, but also to section 25.7 requirements approval, which I will not list again.
The
That was what we-
25.7.
Correct, I'm sorry, 25.7.
Okay.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman?
Motion to approve by Commissioner Kennelly, second by Commissioner Coleman.
Mr. Chairman, there were concerns raised at the public hearing regarding the exterior staircase, and I'm going to let commissioners who had those concerns raise them and decide if they think there's some sort of condition. I'm going to let them, I'm open to that. I just want to say as the person who made the motion. But from my perspective, I understood the rationale for why a jeweler expecting that they would hope to expand upstairs, but wanted the flexibility to not necessarily use that space and rent it to another tenant, might not want a staircase that went inside their jewelry store. That might be, for them, that would take away significant flexibility for them. So I was okay with that. But that said, you know, I'm certainly willing to listen because I know in the course of the discussions, you know, you amongst others raised some issues. So,
Yeah.
but I'm for this, and I hope the commission will support it.
Okay, all right. Fair enough. Commissioner Barris?
Yeah.
You turn the mic off.
I thought it was, I mean, it's a good application in terms of aesthetics. I always thought that building looked a little off, just being one story. So I think 2 stories will help. I mean, a lot of the buildings downtown are 2 stories. I don't know that, you know, I'd like to hear other issues with the staircase. My issue was that it took 20 minutes to figure out, like, how people were gonna move in the building, around the building, and out the building. I watched it on tape, it was almost comical that we couldn't...
Who's on first?
It was on first, it was like that.
Who's on the second
You know,
floor?
they were answering, like, the questions we weren't asking, and, I don't know if there was even an issue, it was just a communication gap we had there. So, I mean, if they choose, you know, to operate their business this way with, you know, occupying both floors, but going into the, I mean, I don't see any public safety danger in terms of ingress and egress. That's what I'd be concerned about, by how the public is going to get in and out of the building. But, I mean, if that's what they want, that's what their business dictates, I don't really have a reason to say different. But I'm, like Commissioner Kennelly said, I'm willing to listen to any concerns or conditions the commission would want to put on this.
Commissioner Jacobs?
I think this is a good application. The issues that were raised doesn't really relate to zoning. I mean, it fits the regulations, and the access and the entrance is up to the business owner, so I'll support it.
Okay, Commissioner Alessi?
The only question I would have regarding the staircase issue is this. And I don't know if you make a condition approval, or you could even word it in there, or you can't. I don't know how that would work. But it would be, if it's going to be one business for the 2 floors, there is an internal stairway, and if there's a tenant, there is no internal stairway. If it's 2 different businesses. I don't know how you could even word that, or make it a condition, or a site plan, or anything like that, if it could be done.
The simple answer is, we are approving additional square footage for retail space. How it's utilized, really, as long as it's consistent, the use that's there is consistent with our retail requirements. The access really isn't a technical problem. I don't know that you even want to get involved with requiring a interior access for a use that you don't even know is going to exist or not exist. Secondly, you should know that if anything other than a retail use is permitted or proposed there, like for instance, residential on that second floor would be permitted, it would be subject to your review and approval. So needless to say, any additional...
Also the building, I mean, like, they didn't propose a bathroom on the second
Right,
floor, so
right.
they wouldn't, I mean, if they were going to rent it out as an apartment, it would have to comply with those.
So bottom line is it would have to come back to you for compliance approval.
Oh, right, okay. yeah.
So any
In which
issues
case, we
that
wouldn't
would...
approve an apartment without a bathroom.
Correct. Hopefully not.
Maybe it would be outside.
So, just to answer Mr. Alessi's point, any use that's going to be made in this building that's going to be other than a retail use on that second floor, requiring any other kind of addition or accesses would have to come in front of you anyway.
I mean, So here's how it fit together for me and related to what you just said and Commissioner Alessi's articulation of the issue, is that it was presented as a second floor for the existing retail use. And when asked, how are customers then going to get from the first floor to the second floor, the answer was, they'll have to walk around the outside of the building. That's a little strange. And to your point, Commissioner Alessi, that then you look at the driveway that now we're intending people to use as a walkway, there's no place for people to walk. And so if it is intended to be used as a second floor for the existing business, it would make sense from a safety perspective that there be some way to get to the second floor from the first floor.
Well, they did mention there was that interior access that would go through the working.
Ultimately, we got there. And I think ultimately, the testimony was that there could be a chaperoned movement internally from the first floor to the second floor. That's my understanding. Is my understanding correct?
I remember the same thing, Mr. Chairman.
All right. So, it was a bit odd, there's no doubt. But I think that, with that clarification, Commissioner Alessi, I think,
We're still back to where we were 2 weeks ago, as far as I'm concerned.
and now it again took us 10 minutes to explain all this again, which is kind of sad. So, but, finally getting there was sufficient for me. So, does anyone else have any comments? No? All right. So, Commissioner Coleman, you are voting on this?
Yes.
Yes, very good. All right. Any other comments? We ready to vote? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Item passes unanimously. That is it for the public for executive session. We'll adjourn for 5 minutes. Next item on our agenda is public hearing. First is a zoning regulation amendment, application of 85 Pond Mill LLC to amend section 21.2 regarding farmers markets in the design industrial district.
Good evening, John Eckman, 85 Pond Mill LLC, 501 Kings Highway East, Fairfield. I understand that this application was actually on for the last session, and I want to apologize that we missed it. Somehow there was some miscommunication in our offices, and I appreciate it being extended to tonight. By way of a little history, back in May of 2013, one of the tenants of our Sportsplex complex came forward with an idea to have a farm stand operation. And after the hearing, although the commission at the time seemed to favor the presentation, it was denied because the use was not allowed in the design industrial district. So after some communication with staff and others, we decided to introduce an amendment that would allow the farm stand, understanding that if this is approved, the applicant would come back independently for approval for their own operation. And so it's section 21.2.13. The language would read, farmers markets will be approved provided they are open seasonally during limited hours and only are operated by an existing food-related business located within 100 feet of the proposed farm market location. With that, I would invite any questions.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions? So, my question is, and in the abstract, I understand it. You're really familiar with the Sportsplex complex, and the parking lot, and the traffic flow, the volumes, times of day, etc. Can you just talk to us a little bit about how this would actually work?
Yeah, now that the project is basically 100% leased and the restaurant local is in operation, which does mainly an evening business, there are times when the lot where this farm stand is proposed, which is when you first drive in the property, there's a 3,000 plus or minus square foot building that's apart from the main building on the left, and we rent a parking area from the town directly in front of that. Mm-hmm. So that area is typically used by the restaurant in the evening hours.
Right.
And during the course of the day, when the proposed farmer's market will be open, it'll be a blend of open area, so that won't be interfered with by the restaurant parking itself. The parking lot itself, we've done a number of improvements to based on observations by the commission and whatnot. And when I've been there, it's flowing a lot better than it has flowed previously. So this section of the lot, I think, is remote from the main area and is really impacted by the local local restaurant. And the hours would be set up to be, in concert with how they work.
I was just looking at the, frankly, I was just looking for the amendment.
Yeah, I don't have it.
Well, it was in our
Maybe it was in the
packets
last
last week, yeah, and so.
Sorry.
I just wanted to look at the language. I read it last week, and then I got all my stuff from last week. But I was just looking for the
Plan just to do this on weekends?
actual
Yeah.
language.
Saturdays?
Yeah.
That's what I heard, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Can I ask a quick question about something else? Thanks very much, Mr. Chairman. A question for you, because, again, I haven't looked at the language since where we looked at our packets before, but was there any consideration about the possibility of providing, and again, I don't know if this is appropriate as a condition of approval, but some sort of reasonable security or traffic flow personnel, thinking like maybe an off-duty cop or something, just that I've seen in city and urban environments, they'll often in parks and things like this, have an off-duty sheriff's officer or a cop, and I don't want to add a burden of cost to you, but the value is that it is still a busy lot. You guys have done a good job trying to improve it, and that corner had been one of the things we talked about was being an additional overflow and all, and my thought is just having a figure of authority there might have some value. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think that they would entertain that, certainly. Having someone there to direct traffic.
And I'm not looking to break the bank, an off-duty cop for the period. So that's a possible condition of approval? Can we do, is that under the law, can we ask
This is the amendment, so perhaps that's more suited to the actual applicants.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, it would have to be, I think if we were to talk about changes, for example, to require supervision of some sort, whether it be by the business owner or, traffic safety or hours of operation or something like that, we would have to revise the language in the text, right?
If you approve the use, of course, there'd still be an application made to you. You would condition your approval for whatever the plan was with that requirement.
Right, but that would be subject to it would be subject to the commission, whatever the makeup of that commission would be at the time, right? Having the continuity with which to
And having
to make
experience
those.
or understanding, because the same questions I'm assuming the
Yeah.
commission would ask if an application was made for that, it's just how traffic and parking would be handled.
Right.
Well, if I may as well, the regulation that's proposed is talking about limited hours. It doesn't define limited hours, but it puts the perspective out there that this won't be an all-day, everyday affair, given the nature of the businesses that are
Right.
going on there. And I think certainly the owners of the property are certainly sensitive to that. So I think the implication there is that the subsequent application that would come, should the amendment pass, would have to propose some limited hours that they propose to operate under.
What about, I hear you. But this is now, though, an amendment to the permitted uses, as opposed to, for example, what I'm thinking, maybe, subject to, that the use is permitted, subject to a special permit application and reasonable conditions imposed by the commission under the circumstances. Some, additional language to that effect.
Well, I think you have that in the permitted use section, is that when you're applying for use, that's a new use, it also is subject to those standards of section 25.7, even though it's not necessarily a special permit.
Right, but I guess, then I just go back to the 25.7. undue traffic congestion, yeah. So it would be part of that consideration, yeah, okay. Public hearing. Any, Commissioner Calabrese?
Well, this is pretty close to home for me. My office is in the same lot. This parking lot that you're talking about using, the one that's leased by your company there, is full every day, on Saturday, for every other business in the back in the Sportsplex. My only concern is, where are those people going to park? Because they don't like parking down at the other end, down near the rock climbing and the cheerleading. They all park down, towards Mill Plain roadside. So that would be my number one concern, is where those people are going to park. Number two is, like Commissioner Kelly said, if you can get this, if it's going to go through and you're going to do this, then I think it needs to have some kind of supervision out there, because anybody that's been in that parking lot knows that nobody slows down. There's crosswalks. They just redid the speed bump. They're supposed to be putting more in, but nobody slows down. It's going to take somebody getting hit by a car before something actually happens there. It's highly unfortunate. So, having more pedestrian traffic in that area for a farmer's market concerns me.
Yeah, a couple
Yeah,
things.
To your point, you're taking away parking spaces to put up the farmer's market, and
Yeah.
the people that are coming to the farmer's market need someplace to park, right? Commissioner Francis?
Is this going to be a Saturday, Sunday thing, or do they know yet, or
The application that
weekdays?
was submitted by them was for Tuesdays. So they knew that, based on their own experience from operating their business there, that a Saturday would not work practically. And again, if this comes back before you, you have control to say, no, look, it does not work.
Yeah.
And the onus would be on them to prove that it does work.
Yeah, it is, and as we just clarified right through staff.
I was going to
that-
suggest that the lot across the street, across Mill Plain Road, is probably empty Saturday, Sunday, or pretty empty.
Yeah, the other commuter lot is.
Yeah.
Commissioner Barrett?
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about what you specifically may want to do at 85 Pond Mill LLC being the applicant, but you're applying to amend our zoning regulations. Have you given any look into our zoning map of the town and other industrial zones, other properties that are zoned industrial, that, that could have a parking lot that may, this is allowing them to have the possibility of a farmer's market? Have you looked at the industrial, I know that your property, you've tried to play within the guidelines of the industrial zone, done an excellent job of it, but,
We're briefly looking over in the Commerce Park area. It looks like there are some areas that could maintain, under the commercial design industrial regs, have this type of business that could be within 100 feet and operate a farm market.
okay, thanks.
Yeah, and I think the question was whether you looked on the map to see what other industrially zoned parcels would be amenable, or that would fall under this, and that this would actually work in, or are there none?
Yeah, well, the one on Commerce Park came directly to mind, and that's about as far as I actually looked.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, there's others, there's
Yeah.
Bigelow Tea, there's a lot of other places, there's still factories, there's industrial property,
But this would limit the ability to have a farmer's market only where there is an existing food-related business within 100 feet of the proposed farm market location. And so it's not just an industrially zoned parcel, it's industrially zoned with a food-related business within 100 feet of the proposed location. That doesn't mean to say that the food-related business has to be on that industrially zoned parcel. It might be next door, right? There might be a commercial zone.
Has to be operated by.
Yeah,
You're right, it doesn't, I'm sorry, it doesn't have to, you're correct.
Yeah.
It does not have to be on the same parcel.
Right.
But it has to be operated by.
sure. So, let's just hypothetically, and I didn't look at the map yet, right? Hypothetically, you've got a commercial zone next to an industrial zone. On this commercial parcel, you've got a food-related business, and they, on a Saturday, lease some parking lot space right here on the industrial zone site and operate a farmer's market. If they're within 100 feet, they're in an industrial zone, okay. But it's not, yeah, subject to the special permit application, right? Yeah, so that's, I guess, how that would work. Commissioner Coleman?
Does it specify that it has to be operated by the food business within the 100 feet?
Yes.
Food business, yes, yeah, has to be, the farmer's market would, by this language, have to be operated by the food business, which is also located within 100 feet of the proposed
Yeah,
farm.
I didn't catch that in the reading,
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah, right, if I'm reading that correctly. So, okay, well, any other questions, comments?
Yeah.
Yeah, Commissioner Corcoran.
Does that mean operated by, I mean, isn't the farmer's market a collection of other businesses?
Well, that, I mean, this is public hearings, we're sort of turning this into an executive session, but that's a great question, and I think it's probably subject to some discretion. Operated by could mean that they coordinate it, they host it, they facilitate it.
Well, that's what this was intended to be. These owners of the stand know people who are in the business of farming and whatnot, who provide them with product, and they wanted to have them have an outlet with which to purvey the goods.
Yeah,
And so they're managing it, so to speak. And the fact that they're close by, they have bathrooms there and whatnot, was the idea that it should be linked together.
is that you thinking? Yeah. Yeah. Okay, well, I think that's all our questions.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does any member of the public wish to be heard on this application? Going once, going twice? None.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. I'll close the public hearing on this item. Next item on the agenda is 1073 North Benson Road, special exception application of Fairfield University for an addition to the School of Nursing in the AA zone.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, ladies and gentlemen. For the record, my name is John Fallon. I'm here tonight representing Fairfield University, and we do make this application for approval of our plans to construct an addition to the existing structure on campus that houses our School of Nursing. We're going to give you a brief simulation in a second, and also then we'll make a presentation that will include some PowerPoint references. Fairfield University School of Nursing is a nationally recognized educational entity. It's been around since 1976, and we have to, as we do with all of our programs, make a concerted focus of positioning our facilities to continue to provide that kind of leadership and national prominence in this healthcare educational facility. In that regard, we have a very immediate need, as we will detail, for larger and more integrated facilities for the education of nurses and other pre-health professional students. Learning spaces have changed in science and in the School of Nursing. And what used to be classrooms with rows of classrooms and the teachers, now we have more collaborative spaces, you'll see in a minute here, where people work in collaboration in innovative ways to create interdisciplinary research, and that's the goal, or one of the primary goals, of this particular building. But the building addition is somewhat more basic than that as well. The existing building's been around since 1976. It's only 16,471 square feet. And it simply has been outgrown by the success of our program, not so much in terms of the number of students, but the need for laboratory facilities and more collaborative areas. The building's not sprinklered. Most of our faculty are doubling up now with office space. So the current building, also, if you notice, if you've been up there, doesn't really have any front door. It doesn't have any real identity to it, so we want to address that as well. Now, the proposed building program that we're going to share with you in a minute shows an ability to construct an integrated addition here between the existing building and the Banau Science Center. And it's a great place for us to continue to focus the nursing program because it's in the center of the campus, and obviously there's an integration here between the School of Nursing and the Banau Science Building. A few other things that are driving this as well. I've also mentioned the collaborative classroom, the need to create larger spaces for learning for our student population. That also extends in our needs to create more larger high-tech teaching spaces that both our students and their subsequent employers are looking for here. We're going to be able to renovate some of the existing space that are currently classrooms and then turn them into the much-needed office space so our faculty won't have to be doubling up. We've been able, with the success of our engineering program, to move the engineering program from McAuliffe Hall to Bannow, but that ate up classroom space in Bannow, so we need to duplicate that for our School of Nursing. And one thing I found interesting as I worked with the client in researching this application is there's been a 20% increase in our undergraduate population of science majors. So I think probably what's happening in this world we live in of technology is mom and dad, or maybe even the student, think it'd be great to major in German, but maybe I should major in biology or chemistry. And that too has put stress on us in terms of our needs to duplicate classroom and laboratory space, which in turn, again, implicates the squeeze that's on the School of Nursing. So in essence, and as we present this to you in somewhat greater detail, this is a monumentally successful school that's been in operation here for over 40 years, but we need to bring the facility up to speed with the reputation and the kind of education that we provide the students. Some technical points quickly. On August 7, the Zoning Board of Appeals unanimously granted a height waiver here to allow the building to be 58.8 feet. That will make it relatively consistent with the existing building and also be 4 stories, also consistent with the existing building. The reason for that was prior to 1999, special exception uses such as the buildings at Fairfield University were allowed to be 5 stories and up to 60 feet in height. And that's why in my statement of use, I cite all the buildings on campuses that are all well over 50 feet. So the board found that that change in the regulations did implicate, on a hardship basis, the desire to make sure this building was consistent not only with its neighboring buildings, but also with the campus in general. The fact that it is located in such a central area of the campus is also obviously a major factor here, in that the building will blend in well with what's there and will not have any adverse off-site impact. We also received a unanimous approval of an inland wetlands permit for this particular project, and we held a code enforcement review, and we've complied with the comments that were made there on September 2, 2014. Before I give you our presentation, which is going to include a brief overview of Walt Jopes of our site engineering, and then I'm going to call on Jose Hernandez, principal in charge from Newman Architects, who will give you the in-depth review concerning the architectural design. We did prepare, as part of our PowerPoint presentation, a short, about 2-minute simulation, and in the spirit of one picture being worth 1,000 words, or certainly 1,000 words of mine, we'd like to show you that, and then we'll make a focused presentation in more detail. And if you want to just turn around and as I pass out the materials that accompany the PowerPoint, I have to point of personal privilege. We had a big discussion in preparation for the hearing tonight, in terms of whether the music was a good idea or tacky. There were a lot of people who felt pretty tacky, and I said, I love the music. So at some point, either before or after the hearing, you can tell me whether you agree with me or a large segment of my claim.
Mr. Farrell, as long as it's not drowning out the concerns of some neighbor, it's probably fine. I'm sure you'll tell us about that, that they're with us.
Many years since I played that piece, so that's why it was very important to me.
My view is it was irrelevant but pleasant, not unpleasant.
Not unpleasant, nice.
That's like a lot of things in life, when you think about it. Okay, back to the business at hand. I'd like to call on Walter Jopes from the Huntington Company. He'll give you a brief overview with regard to our site plan and our site engineering, which of course has been extensively reviewed by the Town Engineering Department and the Inland Wetlands Agency.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Walter Jopes. I'm a professional engineer and land surveyor, licensed in the state of Connecticut, employed by the Huntington Company, which has offices here in Fairfield. I am just a lonely engineer, so I don't have a fancy PowerPoint presentation. We'll just have to stick with Max. This is the site that we're dealing with, the existing School of Nursing is here. The proposed addition is here in gray. We have a connecting two-story corridor between the new and the old building. Fairly straightforward. There's some existing temporary classroom trailers that will be removed prior construction.
Sorry, is this E594, one of three in the lower right-hand corner?
It is.
So it's in,
You
it's
have
in
that. Okay.
the small packet towards the back, and it's upside down in your packet. This one here.
It's upside down. I didn't want to make it.
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to orient them to a page.
Sure.
Obviously, we can't see that from here, but we've got it.
You have it. Good. Good.
Thank you.
Okay. Then, new building here, just south of the existing parking area. What we are going to do to facilitate construction of the connection corridor is abandon some of the existing storm drainage. There's a series of 5 different pipes in different portions of the university's campus that discharge here to the stream. What we're going to do is consolidate those pipes into a larger pipe, and then the corridor will span that, and we'll have a single point of discharge, again discharging into the existing stream. We're providing some roof leader detention, groundwater recharge to the rear and to the front of the building. The one in the front, which may be hard to see, is underneath the proposed sidewalk, which will be constructed as part of the addition to the School of Nursing. Those have been sized to comply with the DEP's recommendations for stormwater management. We have an existing detention basin to the south, Hopkins Pond. We've analyzed that with the addition to the School of Nursing and find that that will continue the function and reduce flows off-site. And basically there'll be no change in site discharge where it discharges at Barlow Road. That's pretty much it. Any questions?
Thank you, Walt. One thing I forgot to mention in my presentation.
Yep, Commissioner Francis.
I'm sorry.
For Mr.
Commissioner
Jones.
Francis.
Laura Cooley had mentioned in her review.
Yeah, microphone, please.
Laura Pooley had mentioned in her review that instead of STMH, I guess means standard manhole, I'm guessing. She wanted a header. What's that?
Oh, head wall.
Head wall.
There's an existing stone head wall there now that has 3 or 4 pipes that penetrated from upstream. We're going to keep that head wall in that place and put a new pipe in, plus some additional new manholes.
Yeah.
594A is the blow up of that area. So the existing head wall is here, which we're going to keep in place. We're going to put a new manhole here. I think her thought was to extend the stream underneath this crosswalk.
That's my next question. She had mentioned a glass.
Yeah, that's just.
That sounded very attractive.
Yes, yeah, well, it's a great idea, but it's not practical in this instance and really not economically feasible. The benefit you might derive from that in this location is very minimal. There was a more of a pristine area.
We did look
Grand
at,
Canyon, for instance.
we did look at that after the code review, and we did discuss it further at law, and we just determined it wasn't practical, and I think she's pleased with the plans that we've submitted, and they're consistent. We've dialogued with her since then on the plans.
And then could you just tell me, for my edification, what RCP and doghouse mean?
RCP is a reinforced concrete pipe, and a doghouse manhole is, picture a doghouse with the opening, fits over an existing pipe.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Walt.
So the stream runs south,
Correct.
and it ends there? I mean, that's...
No, it's pipe.
Oh, it's pipe.
I don't have it. Storm drainage comes from the north end of campus, collects here, and discharges from that head wall into the stream to the south, and eventually down to Hopkins Pond, and then out at Barlow Road, discharge point.
And so the reconstruction is of the head wall and the outlet pipe connecting to the...
Correct. We're going to consolidate the existing pipes into one larger pipe to make it easier to stand when we construct the building, and keep it all together in just one discharge point.
Right. Okay.
Thank you, Walter. One thing I did fail to mention, which Walt did, because of the space pressure, to put it mildly, that we've been under, we have been utilizing a number of quote-unquote temporary construction trailers in the vicinity of the School of Nursing. You can see them there now. They obviously go away as part of this. That is another benefit to us, and we think aesthetically as well. Jose Hernandez is a principal in charge at Newman Architects, who we have engaged and have been working with for well over a year on this particular development, and he's going to give you a brief overview along with his colleague with regard to the architectural aspects of the addition.
Thank you, Tom. Again, my name is Jose Hernandez. I'm a partner with Newman Architects. I'm the principal in charge of this project. We've been fortunate to have a long relationship with Fairfield University, and we're very excited about this project. With me tonight is Amy Salvaggio. Amy is a principal player on the design team and has taken the lead in doing a substantial amount of the coordination of this project, working directly with Fairfield, and I have asked Amy to make the presentation. My functional use tonight will be to hit the next button if Amy suggests that. Oh, then I have no functional use. Introduce me.
But thank you for the introduction.
Hi, as Jose said, my name is Amy Salvaggio. I'd like to walk you through a little bit of the design of the addition and renovation to the School of Nursing as it relates to the context and the program. As you see, it's located at the center of campus, as Walt had said, with existing parking to the north and a wooded area to the south. It's adjacent to the Banau Science Center, which you see there on the right, and Alumni Hall across the parking lot. Running just to the east of the existing building and in between the addition is the stormwater drainage that Walt was referring to. The massing of the building speaks to the context surrounding it, including Bannow Hall, which you see far beyond. Both buildings are 4 stories. They also are integrated into one campus of a sort through the use of the same brick color, and that includes the existing School of Nursing, which is sitting just behind here. Here you see again the same brick color in the existing School of Nursing on the left and the addition on the right. We've also integrated sort of threads of horizontal window banding that you see in Bannow as well to unite the campus as one sort of building. The footprint of the addition has been placed as far north on the site as possible as to reduce the impact to the wooded area to the south. The connector link, thank you, lengthens the northern facade of the building and of the existing School of Nursing. It gives it a larger prominence on campus. And the location of the new entry, which if you can see my cursor is located right here, at the existing building works to tie the two together as one new complex. The addition integrates a very glassy north facade and it's very public. As you saw in the animation, its primary programmatic goal is to create interaction space and collaboration space for the students. I think as it is now in the existing building, they have these tight corridors, and you'll often find students sort of sitting with their legs out in the middle of the hall waiting for their next class and working together as groups. So the goal is to allow a lot of interaction space where they can allow those study times and also collaborative work times to happen within the school. The southern portion of the building houses the loft-like classroom and laboratory spaces. It takes advantage of the natural sun shading that will occur from the foliage to the south in the wooded area. This is the second floor plan. You can also see the renovated lecture hall in the existing building and office spaces. The floor plate of the School of Nursing addition was driven largely by the nursing program that it supports. It is also supplemented by additional classroom spaces, both active learning and traditional learning, as you saw in the animation as well. Here you can see the primary nursing functions in this area. It's called the simulation suite, where hospital-like simulation occurs, as you saw in the animation with the rendered images of exam rooms and operating rooms. And the 4th floor houses additional classroom and lecture spaces, both traditional and active learning, and student support spaces. And this is the elevation of that northern facade, very glassy, very public. The goal would here to be that the programmed interactive space that's housed just inside of that north facade would animate not only the building, but also animate the parking lot which it faces. And then additional elevations, including the southern elevation where you see the continued brick banding relating to Bannow and other areas of the campus, and also the banded windows, integrating solar shading devices as well as it is on the southern facade. And finally, the building sections where you see the 4-story addition on the right, connected with the two-level connector and the renovated 2-story School of Nursing on the left. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Any questions?
Commissioner Jacobson?
Actually, you pretty much answered it in the presentation, but speaking as a former nursing faculty member, I understand the need for more space and then more simulation. The faculty was consulted with this and they had gave input, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, good. That's all. That was because when they did the renovation of where I worked, they didn't. So, thank you.
Commissioner Corcoran?
Yes, on this slide here, I don't know if you can show that. That one. What are we looking at on the left?
The left is the existing School of Nursing. The upper floor is an existing lecture hall, and we've actually added a band of windows to the back of that lecture hall.
And that's a 2-story building?
Yes, sir.
And it's actually much closer to us than the other building?
Well, you can see in the plan, it is closer. I wouldn't say much. So this
Okay,
is the
I understand
existing-
that. Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Commissioner Coleman?
Is the new construction going to be done at the expense of any existing parking spaces?
All existing parking will be maintained, and the footprint does not displace any parking.
Commissioner Canelli?
Thanks very much. Ms. Salvaggio, one of the things that's always impressed me with the university is its commitment to green building. Can you talk about any features like that that may have been incorporated?
Sure. Well, the first thing was the general layout of the building and the north and south being kind of a given. You have those interactive spaces on the north taking advantage of, northern daylight, and then on the south using solar shading and also light shelving to bounce light into those deeper classroom spaces. And then views obviously to the woodlands and the landscape and really maintaining that as it's existing. As far as technical aspects, I think we haven't really delved into that, but the systems are, surely to be integrated. Jose?
Well, what I'll add to Amy's commentary is that we have done a number of LEED certified projects, basic, silver, gold. We yet to have platinum under our belt. And the processes that we would employ as the design moves forward would be to inherently incorporate those same processes into the design as it moves forward. In terms of the existing building, we have, if you were to look at the exterior aerial, you'll see there are 10 solar tubes that we have placed on top to bring natural light in. All this is in an attempt to reduce the energy consumption and try, as Amy was suggesting, to harvest as much daylight as possible. The team that we have put together has a substantial amount of experience working in sustainability, as do we.
Is it your intention to try to get a LEED certification of any kind?
I think at this point in time, we are pursuing the level of sustainability that would go with basic certification at a minimum. Whether we will pursue certification, that's to be deferred, but I can tell you that our experiences as a firm, and we, as I suggested, we have a number of LEED certified buildings. The beneficial impact to what we bring in terms of our commitment to sustainability is as committed as it would be whether the building is certified or not.
So your intention is to seek to achieve a similar
Absolutely.
level of
Absolutely.
sustainability as would be required for a basic LEED certification.
That's
Is that a
precisely correct, Mr.
good way to
Chairman,
say it?
and we have committed to that.
Got it. Thank you. Commissioner Canelli?
Thanks very much, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Salvaggio, or either of you, one of the things is a concern for special permit, obviously, is we want this to be, in harmony. And one of the concerns at my alma mater and rival to Fairfield University is the growing concern of some alumni about the overmassing of structures on a limited campus. In other words, a small campus to begin with at my school, which is Loyola in Maryland, but similar to Fairfield. Has some people uncomfortable with the aesthetics, and even some neighbors who began to be uncomfortable with how, over time, the success of the school almost made some of the buildings seem over-muscled and too large for the site. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about what the thoughts were in terms of, as you developed this, what you were looking to do to reduce the appearance of overmassing, and what, I'm sure you can talk about it in terms of materials or whatever, but just if you could a little bit.
Sure. I think one approach and a discussion that was had in terms of that was the connector link and whether it should be 1 story, 4 stories, how much we wanted to, bring that across. And I think that the 2-story continuation of the existing School of Nursing speaks to the scale that exists, and then the 4-story addition to the scale that already exists with Banau. So I think it's our belief that it is very balanced. Not anymore, I don't think it's overmassed in terms of context, especially with the wide open parking lot that's in front of it. And we don't necessarily know the long-term future of that parking lot, but as it is now, I think it is very balanced in the space that's there. And also in addition to the woodlands that exist behind it, again, a very, not by all means empty, but secluded site.
Anyone else?
Thank you both very much. Lastly, with me tonight is David Frasnelli, who's the Associate Vice President for Facilities Management at Fairfield University. And David will briefly give you an overview of our phasing plan so that the commission has an overview of how this facility, this addition, will be constructed during the course of time.
Thank you. For the record, again, I'm David Frassinelli, Associate Vice President for Facilities at Fairfield University. To orient you overall with this project, where my cursor is now is the existing Banau Science Center complex, the 4-story building. Here you have the existing 16,771 square foot existing School of Nursing, and here is the proposed addition. Out here is the parking lot that serves the campus center, the Alumni Hall Gymnasium, the Recplex, and the existing School of Nursing. We have the road that comes across from Dill Road, past the prep school, into the site here and into the parking lot. This is a road that runs through campus that we refer to as McGinnis Road. The prep school is here. We actually refer to this as Prep Alley on occasion. And here is our central utility plant, home of our cogeneration facility. The challenge we have is that we have a robust School of Nursing program, very successful, and with the emphasis on undergraduate students, we feel that relocating this School of Nursing off campus for the construction phase would really disrupt the student experience. So we attempted to find ways to maintain and keep open the existing School of Nursing while the construction was proceeding. As you had seen in the presentations, much of the high-tech sim labs with all the dummies and high-tech equipment is going into this new building, and very few of the School of Nursing faculty are going into the new building. The sense was, let's use the high-tech space to really showcase the exciting stuff. The existing building, given its limitations, is really focused on faculty offices. So the thought was, let's build this new building that will be home to our high-tech and our sim lab and graduate health. And upon completion of this addition, move all of the sim labs and the high-tech functions into the new building. The sim labs currently are housed on the second floor of the existing building. The first floor is primarily offices. So the thought was, for phasing, move the inhabitants of the first floor, the faculty, out of the first floor at the same time that this addition is built, while maintaining the second floor for sim labs and instructional spaces. We find it's easier to move faculty than high-tech equipment and dummies and beds and this huge investment that we have in mostly electronic technologies. The question is, how do we do this and maintain this as a safe area and maintain safe means of egress? If you had noticed on the floor plans, in this area on the second floor was the auditorium. Immediately adjacent to the auditorium is an emergency egress stair that completely bypasses the first floor and exits directly out of the building here. We also, in the same area, have a bridge that connects to Banau. Of course, you can't exit, emergency egress into an existing building, but for all practical purposes, that's another easy way in and out of the building. And on the far end of the building, at this area, we have an independent staircase that would also serve as the second means of egress out of the building. So, of course, working with the fire marshal and the local authorities, we believe that we can safely operate the second floor while we renovate the first floor. After the construction of the new and the renovation of the first floors, we vacate the second floor and do very minimal renovations to the second floor to create additional faculty offices. Where this is located in campus, and down here at the lower portion is our library. There's a lot of students that are traveling from the dormitories massed in this area that we call the Far East on occasion, coming to the center of campus, coming to the campus center up here, so that this area becomes an important path of travel as people progress from the southeast of the campus to the north and northwest. We plan on maintaining a path through this area adjacent to our construction area, giving us the 20-foot that we need to work on this building, and that students can travel this way. It's also worth noting that quite a few students, if you're familiar with our campus, can cross McGinnis Road, past the library, and go up the hill into the Barone Campus Center and cut through the Barone Campus Center. There's also means of cutting through the existing Dano Science Building. There's a door here so that you could come in here, walk in the corridors, and then out the north elevation of Dano, which they regularly do, particularly when it's raining. For laydown area, if you envision this parking lot as sort of 3 clusters of parking, the construction manager is looking to use this third cluster. And as John Fallon had noted, we have the temporary, quote-unquote, temporary construction trailers that have been there since '99. Capture this area for trade parking, laydown area. Paramount to this is the safe entry of truck traffic, and you can see they can come directly in this road from Dill Road, come into the site, not have to turn around, and then drive out in this direction. Cranes would be in this area, lay down for steel and that sort of stuff. And that's how we see the phasing and logistics of the project.
Anyone have any questions?
Thank you.
I would also want to mention that, as is our habit, custom, we've had meetings, we always have periodic meetings during the course of the year with our neighbors, and we had one with regard to this project, and we advised them of it, and we sent them updates in terms of what we were doing, and we sent them one as recently as a few days ago to remind them that we were having this meeting tonight. So we've engaged the neighbors throughout this entire process. In summary, question was there?
Yes, Mr. Francis.
President saying that the truck traffic is going to exit on Round Hill Road. Is that what you meant?
Mr. Frasnelli, could you address that, please?
Where's my cursor? Here it is. No, truck traffic coming in off of North Benson Road, entering on the east side of this third parking area, and then driving out the west side of the same parking area, and then circling around and coming out the parking lot and exiting back to North Benson Road this way. It's worth noting that much of the campus deliveries, particularly food service to the Barone Campus Center, do come in this way to the loading dock in this area. So we don't anticipate trucks entering, leaving off of Round Hill Road. I will also note that we've engaged Gilbane Building Company as the construction manager, and they do a very thorough upfront package with the subcontractors laying out how deliveries come, how deliveries leave, the noise of the town of Fairfield noise ordinances, and all that gets incorporated and enforced quite rigorously. Thank you.
So, in summary, this proposal, I think, is very much in conformity with your regulations. It's not going to have any detrimental impacts whatsoever to the community. And the new addition, as I think Jose and Amy's presentation confirms, has been sensitively and architecturally designed to ensure that it's going to be attractive, harmonized with the buildings around it, certainly unobtrusive and aesthetically pleasing. Most importantly of all, it's going to assure that the School of Nursing maintains the types of facilities befitting its high regard and national recognition in the field of nursing education. So we'd be pleased to answer any questions that we may not have addressed, but we hope you'll favorably review and consider this application.
Does anyone have any questions? All right. Thank you, Mr. Fallon. Any member of the public wish to be heard on this application? No? Going once? Going twice? Okay. Mr. Fallon, no rebuttal?
No, thank you very much.
Very good. Close the public hearing on this item. Where's this, is this coming from staff? Okay, thank you. So, just give you a second to back up. Next item on the agenda is 356 Black Rock Turnpike, 7375 Duke Avenue, special exception application of Bright Beginnings Fairfield LLC pertaining to renovations to establish a daycare facility in a design commercial district, Commerce Drive.
Sorry, my director's work. Thank you. Cursor? Whose cursor? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Double duty.
For the record, my name is John Fallon. I'm here tonight, proud to represent the applicants. Bright Beginnings, which we'll talk about in a moment, is a child care facility that will be owned and managed by Rajat and Rahita Gupta, who are here this evening. And this is an application for a special exception approval in order to establish a daycare nursery at the property at 356 Black Rock Turnpike with additional parking on the adjacent properties at 6375 Duca Avenue. The property is located in the Design Commercial District, and the use as proposed is permitted, subject to your special exception review, pursuant to the provisions of Section 12.4.28.3. Let me tell you a few things about Bright Beginnings, if I might. It is an early childhood program that is unique. It aims to prepare students to excel by combining an exclusive activity-based and educational curriculum tailored specifically for children with enhanced first-class daycare service. Bright Beginnings, we think, distinguishes itself from many other child care facilities by offering advanced educational and technological programs and activities involving everything from arts and crafts, dance, theater, gymnastics, all at this wonderfully, we think, appropriate location. The founders, who I've introduced, the Guptas, have successfully owned and operated a Bright Beginnings facility in Stamford since 2011, September 2011. As I've said to you before in the context of other applications, the demand for daycare services is extremely high in the town of Fairfield. My daughter, who also happens to be my administrative assistant, asked if she and a couple of her friends could come tonight. And I said, well, let's take a pass on that, but let's talk about the fact that her daughter has daycare in Trumbull, and her friend who lives in Fairfield, has a daycare situation in Monroe, and she works in Stamford. And there's some numbers here that I wanted to share with you that I think are very compelling. As you know, the state of Connecticut licenses daycare facilities. And when they do so, based upon the size of the facility and the square footage, they license capacities, okay? And what I'm giving you is self-explanatory. I'm not going to read it to you. But what it's going to show is that my daughter's story and her friends is not a coincidence. Because when you look at these numbers, you'll see that Fairfield has licensed capacity at only 12.8% of its children under the age of 5. And when you compare that to Stamford, Norwalk, Milford, and Greenwich, again, I think those figures speak very much for themselves. And that is why, when we say that there's a real demand for this type of daycare in the town of Fairfield, the numbers don't lie. And it truly is a need that continues to lead to the type of stories that I just told you about my daughter and her friend.
Where's the data from?
The data came from the clients who supplied me that. And Raj, where did that data come from?
State of Connecticut and Connecticut demographics.
Yeah, yeah, you asking the same kind of question?
Similar question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let me just finish the foundation, though. Is this document prepared by the state of Connecticut?
license capacity is prepared by the state of Connecticut. It's an online document, this public document that shows the license capacity by the town.
Okay, so I'm sorry, and just for the record, can you just state your name?
I'm Rajat Gupta. I'm the,
You're corporate representative of the applicant?
yes.
Okay.
Right.
And so the license capacity is one column.
Uh-huh.
My question is the whole chart
The
from?
whole chart is not available with the daycare facility, the licensing.
Okay, this is something that you prepared?
We prepared, yes.
Okay, I see footnotes. There's
Yes.
a footnote 1 and a footnote 2, but I don't see any footnotes.
I apologize for that, we can get you the
I can
full
get you the
document.
information.
We'll get you the full document, I don't even know what,
That's, the footnote was the source, and I remember offhand.
That's what I'm interested in.
Yeah.
I'll get you the full document. I have-
Okay, that would be
What-
great.
What state agency prepared
Yeah.
it?
What,
What state agency is the website?
We'll get you the full document.
okay, and the state agency from which the data comes, that would be great. Commissioner
Correct.
Barrett, you have a question?
My question was on the footnotes too, but it'll be more specifically, because on a chart, I'm not disputing the need, just trying to
Yeah.
understand the numbers.
Right.
When we say license capacity, does that mean within the borders of the town? Is that what that footnote, and we say children under 5 within a 5-mile radius. Radius of what? Is that only within the borders of the town?
Radius of the facility.
Radius of the facility?
Yes.
So it includes Bridgeport and Westport?
Yeah, within 5-mile radius. I mean, it will go straight.
Got it.
It's comparable to other towns also, I
Yes.
know. I just want to understand what these numbers
Yes.
are. So, because there may not be 13,000 children in our town under the age of 5.
Right, and,
I don't know how many
Yeah.
children under the age of 5, but it's, what's that 5-mile radius? Also understanding, like you said, Mr. Collins, people go to Trumbull from Fairfield.
Correct,
right.
correct.
And we're not suggesting that all 13,591 children under 5 are in need of daycare.
No, the number speaks for themselves.
Right, right.
Correct.
And so the license capacity, it's a great question in terms of 5-mile radius, because I guess if you have a licensed facility that's on in Fairfield,
Mhm.
that is, let's say on Black Rock Turnpike, let's say a 5-mile radius is gonna perhaps even go into, like Bridgeport, Trumbull,
Right.
that's gonna go pretty far. Yeah.
But
Calories.
again, this just goes back to, lack of the details on here. We're talking 5-mile radius from a specific facility or each facility, and then how do we know that
Yeah.
kids aren't being counted more than once?
That's an excellent question,
Yeah.
because if you take the 5-mile radius of, it's perfect, something that's in Norwalk, let's say, a facility in Norwalk, you also have facilities that are being evaluated on here from Stamford. And certainly there are daycare facilities
Yeah.
in Norwalk that are within a 5-mile radius of those in Stamford.
Two things. One, we're going to email to Mr. Wentz, so you'll have it for the purposes of the hearing tonight, which hopefully, we may close. So you'll have the full document.
I certainly do.
Yeah, so you'll have the full document as part of your record,
Yeah.
including the footnotes.
But we
Mr.
won't be
Gupta-
able to look at it and ask you questions about it, though.
Mr. Gupta, I think
I'm
can
trying to
address-
look it up.
Mr.
Okay.
Gupta can address the question, Mr. Gupta, is how the radius was created.
Radius is, we just thought, we're going to be getting children from within 5-mile radius of our location.
Is that 5-mile radius a data point that the Connecticut department that you're looking up also supplied? Or
No.
is that,
That's us.
That's the demographics we looked up.
The license capacity comes from the state. That's what the footnote will say. The
I think so the relevant data is not the first 2 columns, or the middle column. It's the capacity, and it's really the relevant data point is how that calculation was made, not, you know what I'm saying?
That calculation was based on, providing a quality daycare, which, there's not many quality daycares in the area, and we are going to be getting...
The attempt that we were trying to make was to provide you with some data that would put in some context the fact that there is a need for these types of facilities in the town of Fairfield. Maybe that is undisputed based upon your own personal experience. And I didn't mean to open up a can of worms by giving you this data.
Yeah.
I didn't mean
think you
to.
did.
Excuse me, Rose. I didn't mean to gild the lily.
Well-
But perhaps I should continue and we'll get you the document. But basically, If the question is, as I understand it, Mr. Gupta, the capacity the license capacity information contained in that material came from the state of Connecticut, correct? And the radius information was information that you developed based upon what did you do with regard to defining that radius that's referenced there?
Basically, what we said was, I mean, it's just, children are gonna come from that 5-mile radius, that's what it is.
So you used, and what data did you use relative to determine the number of children in the 5-mile radius?
What data? What source did I use?
What source, that's what I meant.
Yeah, that's the demographic information provided, I'm looking for that source right now.
Okay.
Okay.
But it's just a 5-mile radius of what?
Of the facility.
Of the facility.
Which facility?
356 Black Rock Turnpike, 5-mile radius of 356 Black Rock Turnpike.
So which data points did you use for Stanford, Norwalk, Milford, and Greenwich? 5-mile radius of what there?
It could be any 5-mile radius.
Of any facility, existing facility?
We just took the numbers,
From the town.
from the town,
I don't want to get us off focus.
Okay. I guess that the thing is, we just don't know what this means.
Well, the one thing that I think the data that is from the state, the data that is from the state is the licensed capacities for each municipality.
Okay, so from the state was the town designation.
Right.
And the license capacity as a % of children under 5 for that town.
Correct. And that's all I was really asking. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. Now,
Can't be
Not
right.
true.
It can't be right.
That license capacity is column 1 divided by column 2.
Exactly.
That's not correct. So, you just need to understand where it all came from.
Yeah, that's it. If you want us to consider it.
okay.
Because clearly the calculation was made of column 1 and column 2.
Cross out column 2 with.
No, you can't.
Column 2 without crossing out column 3.
Yeah.
Column 3 is 1 divided by 2.
Exactly.
We'll provide you for the footnotes. You can then consider it as you see fit in the work session. The purpose, though, was, I think, to prove a point that probably is not in dispute, and that is that there is a need for high-quality daycare in the town of Fairfield that continues to need to be addressed.
Okay.
So, let me continue. Talk a little about what we do. Bright Beginnings offers various programs because obviously the needs of parents are very diverse. We have a full-day program that would be 5 days a week. We do not operate on weekends. That would run 6:30 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. So there could be parents who have their children enrolled on a full-day program that would encompass those hours. Generally, when that is the case, those children are dropped off sometime between 6:30 a.m. and 10 a.m., and they're picked up between 4 p.m. and 6:30 p.m. We also have a 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. program, and in that case, again, the children are generally dropped off between 9 and 10 a.m., and they're generally picked up between 2:30 and 3 p.m. We have a 3-day program that's available, and in that case, the children can arrive anytime between 7 and 10, and are generally picked up between 3 and 6. We have a 2-day program with similar hours, and I think what we're trying to stress here is two things. One, our programs are very diverse in terms of how many days a week and at what times of day students and their parents will participate, but that in each of these programs, as we'll discuss a little bit in a minute in our traffic analysis, the arrivals and departures are spread out throughout the course of the morning and afternoon period, and they do not generally implicate peak hours at either the morning or the evening time. And we did submit a traffic report, which Mr. Balkus is going to review with you in a moment. And again, as I pointed out, and I think this is a beneficial thing from a traffic perspective in this location, we are not open on weekends, and therefore we will not have any traffic impacts during the weekend hours. We think this is a wonderful location for a child care facility because of its adjacency to I-95, the fact that it is near the Metro-North Railroad Station. We propose in our site plan, which we'll examine in a minute, a total of 42 parking spaces. That is based upon the experience of Bright Beginnings in the Stanford facility, will be more than adequate, and certainly it is consistent with the standards in the industry. The Stratfield Road facility that was approved by the commission last year has 32 parking spaces as approved. We are very careful, and we'll address in a minute in our presentation, the fact that we're going to make very safe and efficient provision for dropping off and picking up of students throughout the entire day. We did have a code enforcement review here on September 16th, and the application that we've submitted to you obviously complies with the comments that were made there, as well as your standards as set forth in section 27.4. You did receive a letter from the Economic Development Commission in support of the application, which I will not read to you. I have two other letters from parents. One's an email, one's a letter that I'll submit while our presentation is ongoing, so as not to hold up the time now. As far as our presentation goes, I'm going to ask Walter Jopes, who's here from the Huntington Company, to again give you a brief overview with regard to our site plan and site engineering. Our architect is here, Bill Andropoulos from ADA Architects. He'll give you a brief overview of the architectural design and enhancements to the building and our interior floor plan. Matt Pop from Environmental Land Solutions is here. He's going to give you a brief focused presentation on our landscape and lighting plan. And Mr. Joe Balskis from Ty and Bond is here, and he will overview and summarize the traffic report. So while I hand out these two other letters, which we know you'll look at carefully, I'll ask Mr. Jopes to just give you an overview with regard to the site plan and site engineering.
Good evening. Again, for the record, my name is Walter Jobst. I'm a licensed professional engineer and land surveyor in the state of Connecticut, employed by the Huntington Company with offices here in Fairfield. This is the existing conditions, existing Fairfield lighting building, Black Rock Turnpike, Johnson Drive, Duca Avenue, and two residential parcels to the south of the Fairfield lighting building. That encompasses the whole property. This is in a lower level. There's a retaining wall that runs roughly east and west between Fairfield Lighting and the two residential buildings. There's a parking lot here to the west and south of the Fairfield Lighting building. The two residential lots have a driveway for each one and a paved parking area to the rear of both of those houses. All three properties are within the design commercial zone, so there is no zone change required for this application. What we will be doing...
Mr. Jobs? Yeah, over here.
Yes.
Sorry. Can you just talk a little bit about that then, the demolition of the residential in terms of the zone and how the current structures and how they fit into the mix?
Just going to get to that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I thought you were moving past that.
No, no.
I apologize.
This is our proposed plan. The Fairfield Lighting Building will remain, as far as outside walls go, as is. It'll be revamped and upgraded on the interior, which will be addressed later in the presentation. The two houses to the south will be demolished. The parking that was to the south of them will be expanded toward Duca Avenue. We will eliminate the two curb cuts that are presently there for the driveways and construct two new curb cuts with concrete aprons and concrete curbs and all that. It'll be a two-way traffic on the northerly portion, the one-way traffic out here on the southerly portion. We will reconfigure, that's the upper lot. On the lower lot, contiguous to the existing building that will remain, we're going to reconfigure that parking lot, redo the curb cut, new concrete apron, 24 foot in width for two-way traffic. We will provide 12 parking spaces within that parking lot. We're also going to construct 4 play areas, which is depicted in this lighter shaded area. Those areas will be encompassed with a fence. And then along Black Rock Turnpike and the interface with the play areas, we will construct a guide rail for safety purposes. Should someone not know how to drive their car and they decide to come in here, it'll bounce off of it.
I was looking on the blueprints, so your guide rail is pretty much constructed like the one on the Merritt Parkway, correct?
Correct.
I think you need to
Yeah,
use the
because I
mic.
saw it.
It's actually not. It's actually even more.
More substantial than,
5 foot.
It needs to be, Mr. Volkes will speak to this, but we
Can you
actually.
use the microphone?
We're using.
Can you use the microphone?
Sorry. We're actually using the same guardrails that were meet the DOT I-95 standard. And they're spec'd at 55 to 65 miles an hour, and I have those as well, okay? And the reason that is a distinguishing, and I don't want to get into territory I'm not qualified, but the Merritt Parkway guide rails, which we found we could actually improve upon. So we're going with the I-95.
It looked like they're steel and wood, though, that's how they're constructed, I-beam.
that was, and the initial design was to be similar to the guide rails on the Merritt Parkway.
Right.
We're going to use an upgraded I-95
Turn it down.
spec.
You can
Jersey
just
barrier?
give him the stack.
Well, not a Jersey barrier, but
And we'll take what it has.
a metal guide rail. John will pass out the details for that.
Now
Okay.
are the DOT specs for the barriers that we would use, which are the same barriers which the DOT requires for I-95. And their efficiency is,
Yeah.
measured at 55 to
Right.
65 miles an hour.
Right. Although the Merritt Parkway guide rail that we expect would be sufficient, this is more so.
Right.
Provide an extra degree of safety.
Are the residential dwellings presently occupied?
Yes,
They are.
they
They're
are.
non-conforming uses, but they are. The owner is here, he indicates.
So the owner of, they're separate lots?
They're separate lots.
Right.
This,
They're under common
the application is made up of 3 separate lots. This is one lot, which is Fairfield Lighting, and we have 2 approximately 50-foot wide lots with presently residences on them.
Right, but the
But
lots...
it's all zoned within the design commercial zone.
Right. When were the residences built?
They predate, they're
I got it.
classic pre-existing non-conforming uses. They must predate.
I got to say back in the 50s would be my guess.
Commissioner Barrett?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you wanted to ask a question. Okay. So it's all zoned
It's all
DCD?
zoned design commercial.
Anyone else?
I have Mr. Andropoulos, our architect, he's gonna come forward. We did make you all pass.
Sorry, Attorney Fowler.
Just one, Mr. Joseph, which one of your people from the applicant is going to talk about like the parking and circulation? Is that Mr. Jobs, or do we wait for somebody on that?
No, we're gonna have Mr. Balkus talk.
Mr. Balkus?
Right.
Okay, okay. Very good. I just didn't want you to leave if you were.
Well, he won't leave anyway, we won't let him.
The traffic engineer is going to answer all the questions
Yes.
about parking and internal circulation and drop off and.
Correct.
Right.
And.
What do we have now?
We made packages for everybody of all the board material, so I'm handing that out now. This would increase not only.
So I won't steal his thunder
You
and
can just
even attempt to
Give him the
discuss
stack,
that.
we'll pass it around. Thanks.
Other than to
Thank you.
This is
say,
the architectural, this is all.
Do we not have those?
You do, but I just like, when I'm presenting to the board, yeah, but so you don't have to shuffle around
Got
your
it.
plans, you'll know exactly what you're doing.
Thank you.
Bill, you were saying something?
we're providing 12 spaces on the lower level, 30
no.
spaces on the upper level. There's an existing staircase and retaining wall here, which will remain. We will stripe a pedestrian crosswalk from the stairs to the entrance to the building, to facilitate travel or pedestrian travel from the upper lot to the building. We have a stormwater detention system, which will be installed on both the upper and lower lots. That'll comply with the town standards and DEP recommendations. We'll have new curbs and concrete aprons along Duca Avenue. Black Rock Turnpike will remain pretty much, and Johnson will remain pretty much as is. That's pretty much it. Is there any other questions?
That was actually very helpful to go through that.
Yeah, I think he did say it was a lot of work, so that's...
Yeah, I think he said something talking about soccer, so I just wanted to understand like how the whole thing was laid out for a minute.
Does everybody have a good picture of that? Because
I
we've
do.
taken a lot of care and attention to make sure that we have a very efficient and obviously safe system for ingress and egress. And the fact that we have the upper and lower parking lot, I think is very helpful in that regard.
Yeah.
Because we're going to basically utilize those spaces in the 12 spaces.
The lower lot.
The lower lot, we'll kind of keep that for the employees that we have. And the upper lot will lend itself nicely to if people do want to come in, drop off their kid. We'll have that all striped and
Right.
proper signage, so it lays out, I think, very well.
Right, and the two curb cuts, the northerly one will be for two-way traffic, come in and out. Southerly one is one-way traffic for cars that come in, traverse the parking lot, park in these angled spaces, and then can exit the site.
Are you talking about mechanicals on the building?
Me?
Anyone? No.
That's above my pay
Architect will
grade.
do that? All right. Very good.
Mr. Andropoulos is our architect, Bill Andropoulos from ADA Architects, and he'll give you an overview of the architectural.
Oh, and the play area, is it a pervious pavement?
Right now, we're thinking of a kind of a rubberized air, well, I think similar to what's out here.
Yeah.
That is yet to be determined definitively as to what we're going to do there, but somewhere along that line.
Yeah, there was, I just remember seeing something from, I think, the code enforcement, the dumpster area. Do you show a dumpster area on the site plan with the enclosure and the elevation?
Yeah, it's on the site plan.
Dumpster area is the upper lot, upper northwest corner.
Thank you. And,
That's a sufficient size for recyclables and refuse.
great. Trying to just find that, saw it before.
Yeah, there is, I think there is something in the code.
That speaks to pervious pavement, right, for the play area?
Pervious? No, I don't.
No? I guess not. Okay. Well, if I find it, I'll let you know.
I asked Mr. Gupta and Mr. Tarantino that what we would be using, the outdoor area that we're still looking at, it would be either material like this,
Mhm.
the rubberized, whatever, or a sort of grass mulch material.
Okay.
Obviously, it's not going to be, impervious. They're not going to be playing on blacktop.
Right. It's not blacktop. It's,
No, no.
soft play area.
Correct. Yeah, the state doesn't allow us to put the blacktop, that has to be something that's safe for children to, if we are putting the playground equipment, it has to be, to protect the fall zone.
Mm-hmm.
It could be either 8 inches of mulch or the rubberized surface, or, for younger kids where it's not big playground equipment, there could be grass.
Excellent. Okay, thank you.
Good evening, I'm Bill Andriopoulos with Andriopoulos Design Associates Architects. Our office is at 32 Main Street, Norwalk, Connecticut. We're licensed in the state of Connecticut, and we were retained by Mr. Gupta to implement his program on the former, or the current, Fairfield Lighting space. Tonight, I'm just here to give you a walk you through the plan, drawing number A1, which you have in your packet. The existing building, as you know, is predominantly concrete block building,
with metal decking and steel frame roof structure, concrete floor on the first level, concrete floor on the second level. The existing first floor is approximately 7,388 square feet, and the existing second floor is approximately 6,568 square feet, for a total building square footage of 13,956 square feet, just under 14,000 square feet combined. Currently, it's a retail and storage building, mixed use. Storage all predominantly on the second floor for lighting equipment and lighting fixtures. And on the first floor is all retail, and some offices, bathrooms, and break rooms. There were two additions to this building over the years. Back in 2000 and 2004, that was this section here was an add-on, and this a two-story addition, and this is a one-story addition. The core of the original building is this shape in here. As such, the change of use now from retail and mercantile to child daycare center, in addition to the location of the building, which is in the flood zone, is going to require us to raise our first floor elevation approximately 9 inches. So the entire existing first floor as it stands right now, which comprises the Fairfield Lighting Center, will be removed. We're going to take out all of the walls and all of the fixtures on that level, and we're going to build upon that existing slab by filling it in with about 6 inches of gravel and raise our new floor slab, which is about 4 inches thick, and pour a new slab on top of that, compacted gravel on top of that existing slab. That will allow us to run our network of piping and drains and such that we have need for with our daycare layout. We have bathrooms in every classroom, changing tables, sinks in every classroom, additional hand washing sinks in every classroom and such to meet the state of Connecticut code for, sanitary requirements for daycare facilities. So we'll be able to run that network of piping in that 6 inches of gravel area, tie into the existing sanitary systems that are existing in the building, and that network will then, flow out to the city's sanitary sewer system.
So the restriction on ductwork not permitted below the floor, you're allowed to put piping below the grade?
Yes, yes. It's not mechanical equipment, it's completely sealed.
Right.
Yep. Okay. So, there is a change of use, whereas it's mercantile, now we're going to be classified as I-4, institutional use group classification. That's because we're going to serve children under the age of 3 in addition to children 3 and up. Okay? So, in addition to the floor slab elevation change, which is one of the bigger construction projects, where we're adding an elevator to the building, which is going to be here, which will service the second floor. We are going to have to reconstruct both existing stairways, as they're pretty much non-conforming by the new code standards for, rise or run ratio and that sort of thing. So these two stairwells will be completely removed and rebuilt in the same locations, and this elevator will be incorporated into the new plan in this location right here. So if I were to walk you through the plan, we're going to have our entrance to the south on the south elevation in the area right directly off of the parking lot, so that as parents bring their children down the stairs from the upper level parking lots, they cross into this area. Again, this grading will be accommodating the new higher elevation of the floor, so that it's a continuous accessible route from the parking area into the building. I'll have to note that we have our handicap accessible parking at the lower level parking area. You come into this reception area, we have a reception office, and then the network corridors that connect the two means of egress and tie into all the classrooms. On this level,
we have 6 infant rooms, 4 rooms that accommodate children from 4 weeks to 12 months, and 2 rooms that will accommodate children from 12 months to 18 months. There are 4 toddler rooms, 1 that will accommodate children from 18 to 24 months, and 3 that will accommodate children for 24 months to 36 months. Also on this level, there's an art studio right here in the center of the space that's used by all the children on this level and the upper level. They'll come down to the art studio. There's restrooms here for adults. There's restrooms in every classroom for the children. Corridor passage, I already explained to you. There's a janitor's room, utility closets, laundry room, and that pretty much comprises all of the spaces on the first floor.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
Could you back up a second and talk a little bit more about accessing the building from the upper parking lot? I'm looking at what is the planting plan, and it looks like there are steps.
There are steps from the upper level parking lot down to the lower level parking lot.
So you don't anticipate that mothers could be bringing children in strollers?
That's a good point, but if the mothers are bringing children in strollers, they would more than likely be directed to the lower level parking lot to drop off. I have to, I could defer that to,
The lower level lot was for employees, I thought.
pardon me?
It's our intention during the course of the day that that's where the employees would park in that lower level lot, but it's not going to be restricted as such. So if someone found it more convenient that they wanted to, because they had a stroller or something, they certainly could do that. We're not going to restrict it to employee parking.
Are you the right person to ask about the planting plan?
No, we're going to do a presentation on that.
Okay, thank you.
On the landscaping.
Did you raise it?
Practically, from our Stanford facility experience, there is nobody who uses stroller to bring the children into the daycare facility. You know, either they carry the car seats or they walk their children. Nobody, I have hardly seen anybody using stroller.
Thank you.
Okay, so that pretty much rounds out the first floor. Again, second floor, a little bit more of the same. We have an area called the movement zone, which is a play area, an open play area for indoor play. There are 3 preschool classrooms. Those are larger classrooms for children, for 3 to 5 years. And then we have 4 classrooms for toddlers. So all the infants are on the first floor with some toddler classrooms and administration office, owner's office, and reception office. On the second floor, there's also an owner's office, what we're calling a pantry area, a place for storing lunches and refrigeration of drinks and such for the children, and that's the extent of the second floor layout. That floor accommodates 4 toddler rooms for children from 30 to 36 months and 3 preschool rooms for children 3 years to 5 years. That's the extent of the second floor layout. Is there any
Commissioner
questions
Francis.
on that plan?
Yeah, Commissioner Francis.
Now, can you discuss, is there any security, or is this, as the parent enters with his child, or is this just very open? How many entrances are there?
Like in the Stanford, our plan is to keep all the entrances locked at all times. Parents are going to get a key fob, and there's going to be always somebody close to the reception. And whenever they need to enter the building, they're going to use the key fob, and that's going to unlock the door. But there's going to be always somebody at the reception, to watch the entrance, and they're going to have access to only one door.
And as far as playground is concerned, they're not going to go out in the parking lot or anywhere. They're going to go straight into the playground, and it's all fenced.
Okay. As far as the exterior of the building, well, I do have one other plan, that is the roof plan. You, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah,
asked
I'm
a question
interested about the mechanicals.
Yeah, so there is a roof plan in your packet, and, again, on that level, we're proposing a few new skylights for our movement zone on the second floor, but there exists today 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 air conditioning units. We've described those units with some letter designations and show the different heights on them. Currently, none of them exceed the allowable height that's allowed by zoning, and where we're allowed 10% of coverage of the roof, I think we're at about 2.9% coverage. So we're well under the allowable coverage. We are adding a little bypass for our new elevator, but again, that elevator bypass is only, is less than 2 feet high. So it's not like a full 8-foot bypass as some elevators.
Yeah. What about the setbacks? So just the reason I asked in the first place was because the elevation shows all the mechanicals as clearly visible, presumably from the street view.
Correct.
And it has been our desire, and I think the intention of the regulations to hide the mechanicals so that they're not visible from the street. And yeah, that's why we have the setbacks, right?
Right.
The way we do.
Right.
So
Currently, there's one existing air conditioning unit, which, if you count this lower level sloping roof, it meets the setback. But from the edge of the flat portion of the roof upon which it sits, it's less than 4 feet to the edge on the, I think this is the south-north, that's on the east side.
The east
that
side.
faces Duca Street.
yeah.
Okay, on this side. That AC unit is there presently. We intend on keeping that unit in that location. I can only say if, when we get into the engineering of the building, we have to replace that building, we could look at moving that location. But right now, it's there, and we would be willing to screen it if that makes any sense. Right now, currently, there are guardrails, but you can see right through them.
Yeah, I mean, as you can see on the plan here. So why wouldn't you need to be complying with the setback requirement? What I'm hearing is that it's not compliant with the setback.
As I understand it, there's one unit that's existing there now that is not compliant with the setback.
Right.
It would be our position on that although we're willing to work with the commission in terms of screening it as a condition of approval, that it's an existing condition.
Yeah, but you're renovating the building.
But we could have a discussion, I guess, about that, but I don't know the fact that you're renovating an existing building would necessarily mean that if you have a pre-existing situation like this, it's still not pre-existing. But I think we can move the discussion by saying we'd be willing to certainly address it by way of screening.
Perhaps. I don't know that it moots the issue. I mean, the reason that you're gutting the building, you have to raise the floor. You're ripping out the floor, you're ripping out the walls, you're replacing everything.
We're building over the top of the floor,
Yeah,
but
it's a completely new floor plan. You're renovating the stairs because they don't meet code. You walk through various things that were to be renovated because they are not up to code. Part of our code is setbacks for the mechanicals on the roof.
That's the only one, right?
that's the only one, yeah.
Whatever you determine, we'll address it.
Okay, all right, I appreciate
We'd
that.
rather address it by screening, obviously, because, that would be helpful, but we will, it's the only one that we're really having the discourse on.
Yeah.
And whatever the commission's determination is, we'll review.
Yeah, sure. Commissioner
I
Leslie.
would just take a look at the Bankwell building on Black Rock
Yeah.
Turnpike. Because we ran into the same exact thing where they used this type of screening, and then we went to a solid panel screening as well, too, back there. So
Yeah.
that might be something to look at as well, too.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I would hope that, in the spirit that we're discussing, is if we can address it through screening, I think we can. And I think that is not inconsistent with the spirit and intent of the regulation, which is visual and aesthetics. We'd much rather address it in that way, because we'd like to not get in a wholesale, gradation.
I think, you know, again, in our, part of our thought process was that if, once we get into it with the engineers, if that unit had to be replaced or resized, that it would require roof work, then we would move it.
Either one. So, Mr. Chairman, we'll address it.
Okay, all right. Anyone else?
The only other items to go over is obviously where there are none now because of the addition of classrooms on the first and second floor, we're adding windows pretty much around the entire building. For the purpose of this, you know, this hearing, we brought this copy of the colored elevation of the south facing, or actually the north elevation. It's the south elevation, but it's looking north. This is our entrance off the lower level parking lot, and these are the types of window bands that we'll be installing on the facade. We're creating some relief in the wall with the build-out of an EFIS exterior finishing system. This is not the color, but this is a sample of the texture that we're proposing. Again, most of the building is block. This one-story addition here, which was added later, is currently an EFIS system. And so, again, we're going to try to carry this theme on all four sides to give the building some, you know, some shadow and some definition, and certainly enhance the elevations with some nice new windows and new colors. This obviously snow shelf is an added stone feature. Again, trying to enhance the entrance facade of the building. Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Commissioner Corcoran.
Did you say that's not the color? Well, the color on the rendering is the colors that we're going the color that we're aiming to get at. It's hard to get the true representation in the color reproduction, but what we're going for is a very light beige on the banding, and then a tan stucco. This is more of a cream color, so this is not the color sample. This is basically a material sample. Right. Of what the material is, for those who don't know what the material is.
Thank you.
This roof over the entrance is existing. That's an existing metal.
So this is how it'll look. There won't be, you know, hippos or something or anything like that on the
No.
outside, something more? No? Okay.
We can consider that.
There will be a sign.
I feel for these kids like I feel for the guys who are watching the trains go by on top of the garage I approved earlier tonight. But whatever, okay, I'm just curious.
Yeah, there will be a signage application under a separate application.
Thank you. Matt Pop from Environmental Land Solutions has designed our landscaping plan, and will also give you an overview of our lighting plan. We've actually moved it forward.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Matthew Pop, landscape architect from Environmental Land Solutions out of Norwalk. We prepared the landscaping and lighting plan for this project. I'll start with the trees and work our way down and end up with the lighting. On Duca Avenue, we're proposing 4 red maples along the sidewalk edge. There's an additional red maple within the parking lot area here. Near the stairs, which we mentioned before, we have a small understory tree, it's a shadblow, reached a height of probably about 20 feet in height. Along Black Rock Turnpike, we have a red oak here we're proposing. Along the perimeter of the building, there's I think about 8 trees that are existing that are to remain
Some of them need to get pruned up, especially these on the east side of the building. The shrubs we're proposing within the planting islands. We're also proposing shrubs along the sidewalk to kind of block some of the cars when you're driving by so you don't see them as much, but they're below. Along the entrance of the building, the plants right now are overgrown. We're going to take all of those out and put in new plantings, which will stay a little bit lower. The existing plantings along the, I guess, the north and eastern portion of the site, those are to remain. They just need to get weeded and maintained. The shrubs that we're using are hollies, roses, some boxwoods, spireas, junipers, and some low ornamental grasses. We do have a lighting detail right here. There's 7 light poles that are being proposed. It's a downward lighting, dark sky fixture. They're LED. They're 12 feet in height, so it keeps a nice scale to them. They're black fixture. They're located 2 in this planting island here, one over there. There's 2 in the next island. There's one at the bottom of the steps, so this area right here by the steps will be well lit. There's 1 light pole on top of the steps and 1 just a little bit down to the bottom, and then there's 2 along the front of the building.
Question.
Yes.
Yeah. The parking lot to the bottom left, I don't see an arrow, north, south, I don't know. Bottom left of the plan? Yeah. So along that back wall, there are no light fixtures?
There's a light fixture underneath this tree.
And that tree there?
Yes.
And not, oh, okay, but not towards that dumpster?
No, there's one over here, and that lights up the dumpster. And their foot candles
Yeah.
are on the plan. You can see the numbers. They're probably small on those plans.
So you expect the one that's under the shade tree there to light the parking spaces along the back wall?
This area right here, yes. It's projecting towards overhangs toward the left.
Got it.
So,
Can you explain how the landscape plan complies with the shade tree requirement for parking lots?
there's a tree, well, along the street, we have the 4 trees. We actually had them on the property line, on the property, and those got moved out to be on the town property. This one right here is actually on our property. It's placed on the property because the planting bed's a little bit bigger. The shade trees are placed, where the islands, where there's room to put the trees. So there's 2 on the east side, and then there's 4 here. And then we have the existing ones along the playground.
Yeah, they're supposed to be in the parking lot, and there should be 1 for 10 spaces, so I guess he was thinking, how do you get you need 5, I think.
That's
calculation. Right.
Yeah.
You need 5 shade trees.
So we have 4 here and 5 here, and then we have the smaller, it's not a shade tree, but it's an understory tree, grows to about...
No, go ahead.
Well, so the regulations require 1 per 5 spaces.
1 for 10.
I'm sorry, 1 per 10, right? And I believe they're required to be in the parking lot to shade the parking lot.
That's, Mr. Wendt can maybe address that, but I don't think I think in the past, the commission has shown that, they've exercised discretion. I can think, for example, the one parking lot up at Fairfield University that's adjacent to the prep area, where they allowed the trees had to be placed, but they allowed the trees to be placed in locations in and around the parking area, not necessarily. We've done that before, and we've also done that. I know we did it at Fairfield University, but I know that in the past, we've looked at putting flexibility in terms of, provided the number of trees were provided in the area, in and around the area, the parking area.
Okay, so I guess the question is twofold then. One, do you think that the proposal complies with the regulations as written? And if not, are you asking for some deviation from that?
I think the proposal complies with the regulation as written and interpreted in the past. Because I know of situations, the one that comes to my mind is the parking lot up at Fairfield University, where the compliance was found by the addition of the appropriate number of trees, but allowed them to be placed in some aspects of the perimeter of the parking area rather than in the center of the parking area. And although I don't have the regulation in front of me, I don't think it speaks to a requirement that the number of trees necessarily have to be placed, in any specific area of the parking, but they do have to be placed in conjunction with the parking area. I answer your question, I think it does comply based upon how we've interpreted the regulation in the past.
Well,
Sorry.
no, that's okay, but I
just wanted to follow it.
The regulation is pretty new.
Right.
Right.
And the regulations, have words, the words have meaning.
Right.
And,
I do believe we comply.
once we found it, I'm just like.
Can I just ask one thing
Yeah,
about
please
this?
do.
Thanks very much, Mr. Chairman. My understanding, I don't have the reg in front of me, but I recall from our hearings, and they're fairly recent, the goal is to reduce the urban island effect in these parking lots. So, I don't recall how things worked out at other sites or other examples like you gave at Fairfield U or something. But my point is that at least when I look at this distribution over the black thing here, thanks. No, leave it. No, I don't want to mess up the Fair TV feed. But my point is just that, ultimately, this is what you're saying you can make work. But I just wonder if there was some way to, I don't want to risk safety, and I don't want to do anything that would impact negatively in terms of the children being safe. But it does seem like you got a big lot and trees around the outside. And I think that the intent of the regulation is to break up those kind of big blacktop surfaces to reduce urban island effect, heat zones and stuff like that. That's what I understand. So it seems like there should be some more trees inside the lot.
So, and before, go ahead, and when you're finished, I'll just add to it. Well, we can talk about it. I just don't want to be told that that the plan complies with the letter and the spirit of the regulation when, frankly, now having looked at it, nothing could be further from the truth. It says there should be one tree for every 10 spaces, equally distributed throughout the parking area in one portion. And the next portion says, all trees shall be located in a curbed landscape island with minimum dimensions of 9 feet on each side. Now, to me, the regulation does not comport with what I think is being shown in the plan. Those are not equally spaced throughout the lot, and they're not in curved islands, which are 9 feet on each side. Those are pretty specific, that's a pretty specific,
Well, we can provide you as a condition of approval with a revised landscaping plan that will address it. I don't think that's something we can do. We would just, you make a condition of approval, a revised landscaping plan that is in technical compliance with that. That would have to be submitted, it would have to be reviewed by the staff, it can be reviewed with you, but, so we, again, we don't want to see the application jeopardized. We provided the number of trees, and what you're referring to is the placement of the trees, and we can address that.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question also. Also, the type of tree, my recollection, because it was one of the things I was cranky about, was that the new regulations require the trees be specifically shade trees, so they had a bias against small decorative ornamental trees, and I know that a red maple can get big, but most of them really are fairly small and don't get big.
Maybe you wish we could change that to, red oak, that I have the red oak here. That's more wider growing.
Right, that may be the only one that qualifies, though, so if you're going to
No,
revise
that's fine. If
the
you wanted the
landscape
oaks,
plan,
that's a good tree.
the type of tree.
The other thing we could do too, we have the small flowering tree here. We could change that one to a larger growing tree too.
Okay, thank you.
So that would be, 6.
Okay.
Oh.
I have a question as well. On the plants selected, are they native? Are the plants selected native to Connecticut?
Some of them are. The trees are native to Connecticut.
Right. Okay, good. We just got a little bit of clarification? That, yeah, 1 second.
The only change was that the paved closure.
Is it like rain gardens and that kind of thing? Okay, so.
The location is still.
Right, so the aspect of the regulation which was in existence previously and is currently is the number and the distribution, et cetera. The change was with regard to the island, that now under the new regs, it can be more sort of within the parking area, parking lot.
It eliminates the curb.
Eliminates the curbing.
Right.
And to Commissioner Coleman's point, there were certain types of trees which are shade and longevity and tree warden acceptable kind of stuff.
And we will, and with that entire topic, I think what we will simply suggest is that you would make a condition of approval, submission of a revised landscaping plan,
Which
would address those items.
Meet the regulations.
Just one quick last point on this, not to put a too fine a point on it. Thanks, Mr. Chairman. So, Mr. Fallon, the point is that we can rest assured that that the calculations have been done. What we're describing to you won't be a problem later if you guys come back and say, wait, we start to put in all these tree islands, we run out of parking or something, or we lose enough parking to cause a problem here. And then we have to choose between the two. You're okay, in other words, on parking, that this isn't an issue?
The answer is...
And it's safe?
Yes, the answer is yes, and I think that's
Okay.
particularly because of the amendment
Yeah.
that Mr. Devonshek and the chair were just dialoguing on. I think where the parking islands could become an issue in the past was where they had to be curved in such a way that they would necessarily eat up unnecessary space. And I think when you did the amendment, not only did you take cognizance of that, but you also took cognizance of environmental factors. And
Right,
things like that.
we're talking about rain gardens and,
Okay,
you
Mr.
know.
Jobs is here holding the plan, so Mr. Jobs, do you have anything?
No.
All right, why don't you come up here?
And my goal in asking...
To assure the commission that we would be able.
The point is,
Good.
okay, great.
Okay,
Not
good.
lose any parking.
Yeah, no, good. So I'll reiterate that my point in asking these questions and dialing into the regulation was not to cause an issue, but to make sure that we were having a plan and a development that was consistent with all the hard work that the tree warden and Bikes and Parks and Rec and this commission has done, forestry had done in order to, make sure that we're building new parking lots in accordance with a new standard and that it can be met.
We'll be proud to be one of your first poster childs for the new regulation by way of submission of a revised landscaping plan as a condition of approval.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we can do that without the loss of the conditions.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Anything else, Matt?
No, if there's any other questions?
I have a question.
Commissioner
I was just starting to say, let me ask Jim, do we have any requirement that we use native plants?
Yes.
And if these are not all native plants, I think that should be addressed.
Okay, the trees are native, some of the shrubs are not native, but they're not invasive. So they're usually what we try to avoid is the species that are invasive.
Right.
So,
Are our regulations, are they for native plants or for non-invasive plants?
Well, prohibits the invasive.
Well, I think there is a reason to have native plants as well, but if it's not in the regulations.
So to the extent that you can utilize as native in the revised landscaping plan, then that would be a good thing.
okay, if we could do that.
Any other questions for Mr. Pop? Okay, then I'd like to call on Valskis, our professional engineer from Ty and Bond. He has submitted on our behalf a traffic analysis, and I'm going to ask him to briefly overview that and answer any questions that you might have.
I have a 20-minute presentation. I'm just kidding.
We can break now. It's been a long night.
He's got a 10-minute presentation.
I'll be quick. For the record, my name is Joe Balskis, I'm Director of Traffic and Parking for Ty and Bond, and I'm a licensed professional engineer, state of Connecticut. And we prepared a small traffic study, as you have in front of you, for the daycare facility. I just want to run through some of the issues. Before I do that, let me just touch on a couple things that were talked about before I got up here. One was having to do with the metal beam rail, the guide rail we called it, along there. It's overkill that we're proposing. It really is. It's metal beam rail, it's RB 350, it's state of Connecticut, it's 495 as you heard, so it's overkill, but it is sufficient for the location. It's got a small deflection area, but again, it's overkill, but it's solid material that nothing's going to go through it, basically. Unless you hit it head on, nothing's going to go through it. So it's a good application, but it is heavy duty, if you will. That was one issue. The other issue had to do with the parking and the circulation. And I'll just, real quick, as you mentioned here, this area here, what's going to happen is the employees are coming in before, obviously, before the students arrive, the employees will be arriving. So this parking area here will be filled up with employees. And the desire here is to minimize, as you know, pedestrian car conflicts. So we're not going to have a lot of back and forth here with vehicles going in and out of the parking lot and mothers and fathers crossing there. So the intent is to have the upper parking lot lower in the plan, this parking lot here, to be used for the parents dropping off their children and walking down steps through here into the facility. Just want to make sure that's clear, everyone's understanding it. The employees will come in earlier and use up these parking spaces. Will there be an occasional parent parking in there? Possibly. But the intent is really to have the circulation, such that they're circulating in this flow here, which is what we want to have, and keep them separated from pedestrians crossing that parking area. So, okay. All right, so just back to the traffic study itself. We did do a traffic study. We looked at a couple intersections, as you saw in the study. I'm not going to go into much detail. We're looking at about 130 trips being generated for the 172 students. There's a table that was provided in the handout, right? Table, and just kind of summarizes. We use ITE trip generation numbers. They're conservative. They're based on dozens and dozens of daycare facilities, so it's a conservative number. And we use that because, as an engineer, as you know, I try to be conservative in my projections of traffic and analyses. So we use conservative numbers. We took those numbers and we applied that to the network, road network, from the traffic numbers we had from other developments and other studies that looked at DOT counts that showed, basically from 2001, 2013, relatively stagnant traffic volumes, if you will. Nothing's really grown here. In fact, it's reduced about 2% over the last decade in this area from 2001 to 2013. So we didn't really grow the volumes that much because of that. So a conservative analysis of the intersections, the volumes being distributed, based upon highway, proximity to the daycare. Highways will be heavily influencing our flow, if you will, of parents coming off the highway, on the highway to drop off their children. And based on that analysis, Duca Avenue, Commerce, and Johnson, we didn't see any major changes in level of service. I talked before, as you've heard before, about change level of service. We looked at the intersections themselves, looked at the approaches, and the tables are very detailed, as you see there. And so we didn't really see any major changes because we're distributing traffic as well to the network. So nothing here said that there's a red flag here, there's a problem here, there's an impact that we need to address. There's no sightline issues on Duca Avenue as well. So all in all, it's a very good application in terms of traffic. Some minor changes in delays and queues, but nothing that stands out and says there's a problem here, we got to fix it. So with that being said, I'll conclude my presentation.
Does anybody else have a question? Martin, Commissioner Corcoran?
I'm looking at table 1.
Yes.
How do I read the headings here? It says 2014 existing, 2015 background, and then combined. Where do I see the change due to
the bill,
this application?
Give me 1 second. Let me pull it up here. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm a little tired this evening, waiting to get up here, so I'm a little slow on my reference to my tables here. All right. So table 1.
You haven't been on this side of the table all
Yeah.
night. Kidding me?
There we go. Sorry about that. Okay, so table 1, level service. Okay, existing 2014, this year. Background being next year when the facility is they're building it, about to open. And combined is when it's opened. We call combined is the future, it's the opening of when the facility opens. All the traffic is included in that.
So I would expect 2014 existing and 2015 background to be the same?
Yes, to some extent, because we didn't have too much volume projections, changes in the volume, as I mentioned before. We may have included some other developments in the area, but for the most part, in this case, no, you will not see much change in that. In fact, you see it with the results. You see a slight change in some of these results from
So
that.
even though we have 138 additional trips, it doesn't seem like there's any change at all.
Well,
Is that-
we're looking at from background to combined.
Mhm.
Okay, so when we do traffic studies, you're looking at the background condition to the combined condition. That's the impact that, as a traffic engineer, as a study shows, that's the impact you're looking at. And if you look there are some impacts. There are impacts meaning some changes. You see some increases, a second or two here and there.
You
that-
also see some decreases.
Yes, yes, and I mentioned, there are some decreases, but they're not significant that warrants us saying, oh, there's a problem here. And when you see a C going to a E, when you see a significant Q going beyond 4 or 5 cars increasing, then we start talking about that there's an impact there. And I, as a professional engineer, have to look at that and say, I have to address that. Or why is that happening? What can I do to mitigate that? Is there an improvement? Is there a signal time revision? Things like that I would have to look at. And we don't have that here. So the bottom line is just capacity. We're about 100 cars are being generated. We're 130. State Traffic Administration uses 100 cars at intersections for a study area, for determination of impact. So if you're under 100 cars, they only look at an intersection. We're a little bit more, 30% higher. We're a little bit more than that. So I'm not saying we're low, but we're not a very high generator of traffic. So we have a study area that includes 3 intersections that, using state guidelines, we never look at. So based on that, that's why you're not seeing much of an impact. You're looking at 2 cars a minute, basically, is what you're looking at.
2 cars up.
A minute, no, a peak hour.
A minute.
Right? You're looking at 60 minutes an hour, so in terms of getting a grasp of that, it's about 2 cars a minute.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Can I ask a question, Mr. Chairman?
Anyone else?
Yeah.
Mr. Pinelli?
Thanks very much. Mr. Volskus, just wonder if you could comment a little bit about, in Table 1, third down, looking at the weekday mid-afternoon peak hour, the change from 2014 existing to 2015 combined. I noticed on the third line, Commerce Drive jumps about 6-7 seconds. Could you talk about that a little bit? Where that, because that's one of the more significant jumps, and I just wondered, how did that, almost all these others seem almost remarkably unchanged or marginal. You see what I'm talking about? It's the third line down in Table 1. It begins with overall Commerce Drive, and then I'm looking at the weekday mid-afternoon peak hour. 2014 existing jumps from 40.8 to 47.3.
Yeah, the westbound left.
Right.
Westbound left.
Right.
All right, so we're Commerce Drive.
Right.
Right here.
Right.
Here's the building here. There's the circle there. Right, Black Rock Turnpike. And westbound.
I guess I'm trying to understand is what's impacting that. That's why is that signalized delay in a 6-second range versus 1 for almost everything else?
Left turn movement. And what we're saying, we add traffic to the intersection. We're actually adding right turns here. We're leaving the site, Duca, turn right, come out here. So the reason why you're seeing that change, the increase, is that we're adding more traffic to that approach. And by adding that traffic to the approach, the software interprets that I'm adding more volume to the approach. I only have so much green time, and we're not changing that time. So it's more volume versus a saturation flow rate, and it's calculating that to be an increase.
So apologies, just make sure I've got it right, because this has been a long night. So traffic is flowing from Commerce towards the site, and is that the idea, or is it flowing away? I'm sorry.
No.
Is it flowing towards?
This is westbound.
Westbound.
I'm just quoting the westbound table.
So it's away. It's away.
This way towards Black Rock Turnpike.
Right, so it's going out.
Yes,
Okay.
it's going out.
Now, here's a question for you. Was there any consideration about potential build-out at the Metro Center? The reason I ask you this is because it's increasingly clear that the private developer in public statements has indicated that they believe that some sort of residential component, which was never anticipated by this commission or planners at the time, may be something they're going to seek coming before us later. So potentially many hundreds of new units, while certainly we hope that there's a use of trains, I wonder if there was any consideration of this when you looked at the site, because it does seem that, for example, Commerce Drive would be an area which would be impacted. Anything like
Yeah,
that?
no,
just
we did
strictly
not.
just worked off of...
Being this
right.
size of development, no, we did not look at that.
Okay.
And I have to venture to guess that that's obviously a major traffic generator. That's generating,
Yeah.
several hundred cars an hour at least,
Yeah.
Even with the train station there. And the State Traffic Administration is in charge of making sure that they are mitigating their impact. So if they haven't fully opened yet, they certainly have to do improvements to mitigate their traffic impact. So could we look at that? I guess we could. I don't know what that would do for us in terms of, if they're adding more volume to that intersection and then we add our volume, it throws us over, the threshold a little bit. We could look at that, but I think it's such a small amount of traffic, because compared to that Metro Center, that we didn't consider that.
And just so I understand in your report as well, you're going to have 30 to 35, employee trips, but you anticipate, employees, but it's anticipated that probably about 20%, I guess when they were 6 or 7 employees, will take mass transit. So in those numbers are built in maybe 27, 28 employees generating trips. That's how it was calculated.
Yes, and we're looking at the peak hour, so they're
Right.
coming before the peak hour, right?
Right.
The employees are coming earlier. We're at a snapshot of an hour of the peak flow for parents bringing their children here to the facility. So
Right.
the employees are before that. They're going to come in before that peak hour.
But I would say that there's going to be some, I guess when you looked at, closing at 6 p.m. and pickups close to 6 p.m., and then I suppose employees also exiting close to that time, that has to have some impact on the, that traffic circle area, because it does seem to get quite backed up all the way out to exit 24. I've been there in the late afternoon period, and I found myself actually almost out on Interstate 95, and that's without this development.
Yeah, it does back up. I will say that in terms of the generation, our peak hour is going to come before that.
Yeah.
We're not going to be peaking at 6 o'clock. We're going to be peaking earlier than 6 o'clock because again, the peak for our generation is the parents coming, not the employees, not the very tail end. It's going to slowly rise up, peak, and come back down again. And we're in the middle of that peak that we're looking at, as opposed to before and after.
Anybody else? No?
11 o'clock. Thank you.
Thank you. 2 minutes.
I hesitate to bring this up, but I feel I'd be remiss if I didn't. We have emailed to Mr. Wendt those footnotes. Without reopening that can of worms, you're entitled to understand, okay? As I think Commissioner Francis or Coleman said, I think the key point that we were trying to make is in the first point there, total license capacity. As you can see from the email, the source for the total license capacity in each town is the State of Connecticut license lookup website, www.elicense.ct.gov. So that's where Mr. Gupa got that. On the radius, you're absolutely right. What he did was, he took this location for the Fairfield, he put out a 5-mile radius, and he went to, and again, it's in the footnote, the U.S. Census Bureau, Census 2010, blah, blah, you have all that information, okay? So that's how he got the number for Fairfield within 5 miles of this facility.
This facility.
Right. When he went to Stamford, Norwalk, Milford, and Greenwich, you were absolutely right. What he did was, he took a central address in the middle of Greenwich. He ran the 5-mile radius from there, and then went to the Census Bureau. So you're right, in a given situation, it could be other than Stamford. Let's not go there.
Right.
The point that we made, though, is I do think that the first column documents we are under license capacity in Fairfield. So,
With regard to Fairfield.
with regard to Fairfield.
And this location.
Correct, which is probably what we meant to tell you about, most importantly of all. Now, by way of summary, this is a real important application. I started off talking about my daughter, her friends. There is a need, there really is a need for additional facilities such as this within the town of Fairfield for the parents with the kids who live there. The Gupas are great people. I've been working with them for over a year. They run an excellent facility in Stamford. You're invited to come down and take a look. I think you'll be very, very impressed. It's a very high level and creative approach to daycare, and it's a great location for it for all the reasons I said before, and it's going to give Fairfield parents a great option for something that can't be more important to any parent. And when you become a grandfather and you watch your kids struggle with childcare, nothing's more important than where you place your children when you go to work. And so we need facilities like this, competently run
licensed facilities in a good location. And so we hope you will approve this application, and we do appreciate your patience for a long night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any member of the public who wishes to be heard on this item? Going once, twice? Please don't do it. Done. Mr. Fallon, any rebuttal? Close the public hearing on this item. Meeting's adjourned.